And then Richard steps out.
And then he just leaves. Yeah, he just leaves. It's like, hi, we're going live. Okay.
We're going live. I'm just going to step out of the room now.
Let me know if the audio and the visuals and all that sort of crack's working okay, everybody. But yeah, thanks again for coming back tonight. And Rejo straight in with the super chat. MathPig and Richard says, hi, I'm not muted. No, I'm not muted. We're not muted. Who's doing that? Yeah, so if anyone was watching me and Richard on Tuesday, again, Rejo, thank you. So kind to the channel. Man, you do so much for the channel. We were chatting on Tuesday, and I thought we would ask Richard something not specifically on the religion of his topic, his specific type of religion. And then I've been thinking all week and this, that, and the other, and a few questions I wanted to ask you. And it's hard to sort of come up with something, Richard, considering how much, how long we've known each other. You know, it's hard to think of something to come up with. And as you would describe yourself as a zealot.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. You would self-describe yourself as a zealot. Religion, I think we can all agree, has completely taken over your life.
Yeah, I think there is no time in my life, I mean, even in very, very private moments, that it's not in consideration.
Now, what age are you now?
What? Am I a Jew now?
What age are you now?
Hi, Maya.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
Fashionably late.
Yes, we'll go with that.
So what age are you now,
is always
Richard?
precisely on time. I'm 54 years of age.
Right, and how long have you been practicing this demolished doctrine idea?
Since I was 42, just before I turned 42. Yeah.
So a good, 13 years then?
Yeah, something like that.
Right. And you would agree that it has, as you stated, it consumes every thought and all the rest of it and what you're doing. Did it?
Absolutely.
Did it flip? Like, I know that you tell the story, and I'm trying to dig a wee bit deeper about what was before and all the rest of it, your actual progression, but I know that when you tell the story, it was moving for you. You rushed out to stop it. We've all heard this script story that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel that, did it instantly change you? Now, I know it's going to be hard to describe, but is there a fuzzy feeling in your belly and you were like, right, can't do this now or that now, or, on something basic, like say a partnership with, finding yourself a partner to be with. You don't have that desire anymore. Did that take time to work away?
No, on that specifically, no. I went to her and I proposed, and she said no. So immediately I proposed again, and she said no. And then I said, "Are you sure?" And she said, "Yes, I'm sure." I said, "I can't be with you anymore, and I know you don't understand that." And I tried to explain it, but there was no explaining it.
And that was just, you were with a partner when you had this experience?
I was dating a woman. In fact, I was at her mother's house fixing some things about her mother's house, namely a vehicle, when all of this happened to me. And they were Buddhist light hippies, something like that. That was
No.
And the ghost of a milking stool appeared behind him.
Yeah.
Oh well, that's cool. I'm not supposed to be visible.
No.
I just broke Robbie's streak.
No, right.
What were we talking about again?
We were talking about you. You were dating someone. You had this experience. You asked her to marry you.
Yeah. So I had this experience. I started telling as the experience was happening, which was a continuous 10 days. Or do you want me to talk about like the first moments?
Yeah, well, like, what was the experience like? Like, you are in a position now where you just admitted and described the fact that, religion and your particular type of religion consumes your life and your thoughts. You're a zealot. did that happen overnight? And if not, I'd love to know how did it come to the point where it's now consuming your life?
My conversion was less than 20 minutes. I say 20 minutes conservatively to be safe. I know it was less than that. By the time I got to through NASA.gov and saw that the moons were there over Jupiter, and then I went to Google and found how old was the story of David and Goliath. And I didn't even know how old Bibles were or anything because I wasn't into that stuff. But I found in the Holy Cross Church I think it's in London, England, is a carving of David and Goliath, and it's dated 700 something. It doesn't even have a fourth digit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found out that the King James was compiled in 1610. Or published in 1610, and there's just no way, that they were making up the story because of the age of the telescope and they just discovered these moons.
Right. Now, what you're telling me though is a story of how you became convinced.
Yeah.
You're telling me you had this experience, and then you went forth, you went to NASA, you checked this, you checked that, and you checked the other. At the start of it, you say your conversion took 20 minutes, but what you're telling me now is an experience of you going forth to not convince yourself, but finding evidence that convinced you of the story. If you'd have went forth and found evidence that didn't convince you, then it's a different outcome. I'm more looking at your personal feelings. Like you said, you converted in 20 minutes. How did you feel about that? Did you it was such a vivid dream, it must be true, I will now go confirm it? Like
in my brain, it was like, oh, crap. It's just great. This changes everything. That's just flipping awesome. Great.
So you instantly assumed the reality of it. You instantly assumed the truthful nature of it.
No, I didn't assume any reality of it. It's real.
Yeah, but you just had a vision. You've just experienced it. You haven't had 15 years going through it. And as you've described before, you're an atheist and all this stuff. So when you first experienced it, you had no confirmation that it's true. You couldn't make the statement, this is true. The only thing you can say is, I just experienced a fucking thing.
No, my idea was this must be wrong. So I thought for sure when I went to NASA.gov, there'd be no moons over Jupiter. I was sure of it.
So your research that you did, so to speak, we'll call it research, where you went forth to look about these things that you experienced. You said your conversion took less than 20 minutes. So did you go check NASA and find out about David and Goliath in 20 minutes?
Oh, easily, yeah. Internet and all that.
So, yeah, but if somebody experiences something, and this is just the way I'm talking, Maya, Stephen, feel free to jump in on this. If somebody says something to me that is true, or I experience something that is true, and I only spend 20 minutes researching and looking to find the validity of it, and then I just give up and accept it, I think that's poor. I think that's not looking hard enough. It's 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's all it took. The stuff was really simple and irrefutable. I mean, like the carving of David and Goliath in the Holy Cross Church has a date chiseled into it. How do you argue?
I mean, I think like what it means is, there are people who devote their entire lives to the study of this as a field.
Sure.
How do you just, like, in 20 minutes? I mean, when I hear 20 minutes, it was like, man, I put in a word search on Google, looked at the first thing that popped up, and I was convinced. It was so, that
that's
first
what I'm
thing
hearing.
I read, so convincing that I never looked at anything again. I mean, can you tell us how that was different for you? Because the rest of us don't find that convincing.
It's simple logic, and it's undeniable. And I could have said something like, I like my lifestyle, thereby I'm going to doubt all this information that just like is obvious to everybody. And the only thing that's different is the view that I'm the I could say value system, the view that I hold on the text, what it's trying to say. That's the only difference. It's not like this is new information or I guess I could have said, oh, I think they're kidding me about the moons over Jupiter, and went like, oh, I just deny that. But
But
it seemed like I didn't see any reason why, and I still don't see any reason why NASA would be lying about the moons over Jupiter. And I don't see any reason why, you know, scholars on ancient art would lie about David and
But
Goliath.
you're giving me
and
all of
how-
this stuff that you're telling me now is stuff that you've learned over the 15 years, Richard. I'm trying to get to
No, this was the first 20 minutes.
this is very little, but you're learning this from. Okay, let me see if I can make a better correlation and explain myself better. Stephen or Maya, have you ever been in love?
Yes.
I mean, where?
You've been in love. You woke up in
Yeah.
the bed beside your partner and you look over at them and you have a physical and emotional. There's a thing that you can't describe that's just joy or happiness or
I
whatever.
know
it
exactly
is.
what you're going to
Yeah,
ask.
well,
Yeah,
we
I
get
know
it.
exactly
There's
what you're going to
that
ask.
thing, right? Now, when a person says to me that they've experienced God and they have converted because of their experience, I'm expecting and making the correlation in my brain to connect with them that it's that sort of a feeling, that's something you can't put your finger on, something like that. Whenever you have an experience of God, there's that feeling that you have, something like that. It's indescribable. Where when I'm asking you, what you're telling me is no feeling, no fuck all, really vivid dream. Went and checked it out on the internet for 20 minutes. It was right. That's what I'm hearing. Do you see the
Yeah.
difference, Richard?
Sure, I see the difference, but you're neglecting, I think, in your thought process that I did not enjoy the vision.
Yeah.
It's not like laying with someone and you waking up in the morning. No, it's like someone abused you.
Yeah. I've
What?
had very, very vivid dreams.
So it's like if this monstrously big person just held you to the ground and poked you in uncomfortable ways in places that you didn't like being poked. And they did that in a pretty aggressive, not gentle way at all. And that's what you had just experienced. Now you want me to wake up loving them?
No, hold
That
on now.
doesn't
You
make any
experienced
sense.
no, from what I have got from you before is this is a dream. A movie is the way you've described it.
Yeah, it's
Are
like it
you
was
now
like a
telling
movie,
me
yeah.
that it was a 4D movie with torture? Or did you just hate the experience? Because we've all had bad dreams where we've not
Sure.
liked the experience. We didn't wake
Sure.
up and think it was real. I know yours was a day vision, but you get the correlation I'm making.
Okay, let's say you had a dream, and you woke up from it, and you go, "Geez, that was crazy." And the first thing you think is, "Well, that's a dream. That's not real. None of that can be real." But let's say it was so vivid and it was on like basically mundane topics, and you went to the internet and you go, "That's wrong, right?" And you start to confirm yourself. It's wrong. Okay, I'm just going to find out that it's wrong, and then I'll go back to my life. Then you find out it's real, and you go, "Oh, what the hell, man?"
In 20 minutes, though, I don't think that 20 minutes is enough time looking into any topic to confirm that it's a
That's not
fact.
true at all. That's not true at all. On mundane things, you would take, a high school student.
Yes, I would take
Word on
that as
something.
truth. Yes, I would take that. Okay. I agree with you, Richard, on the fact that if you looked up and you seen that Jupiter was real, that necessarily doesn't mean that what you experienced is real. It just means that
Right.
what you experienced, the information was correct.
Sure.
Okay? So I'm not saying that you go out and you've seen things about the moons of Jupiter and you're going to go check the information really quickly. Moons of Jupiter, there's it there. You're not going to question it. That took all of 2 minutes. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. 100% information is true. But your experience of it, you just agreed within 20 minutes because the information it gave you was correct. And you couldn't
Right.
come up with any other reason that you knew this information except if this vision or movie was true.
Right. What's wrong with that?
Because it's 20 minutes.
It was just hard logic. It either follows or it doesn't. Here's the parameters of it as far as I can see. if the story was popularized in 1610, which is evidently true to my culture, right? And the King James being so prevalent as it still is today, then it was 1609. I'm sorry, it was 1609 that it was being compiled. 1610 it was published, but it wasn't until 1610 that Galileo made his telescope. Then it wasn't that Galileo discovered the 4 major moons over Jupiter and they included it in the Bible. But it's so close, that's so close together in time, I had to say, well, how old is the story of David and Goliath? And then I found out that dates back all the way to single-digit years, you know, in the classical way of thinking when to start the calendar, the Gregorian calendar, right? So they hadn't even got to 1,000 years. So it's obviously more than a 600-year gap. So then, if the moons over Jupiter exist, and they do, and that's what the story is talking about, which is at this point plausible, and it was not in my experience that the moons exist, then I just received valid information from outside of my experience that was just verified in reality, which I could not have collected because it just wasn't there for me.
Richard, we've talked about this before. You are creating a dichotomy, okay? And it must be this or this, can't be this, has to be that. Your logic is fine if it is a dichotomy, but there's multiple other ways. It can't, the immediate acceptance that this is aliens.
Yeah.
Okay, you have to see where, you know, there is other possibilities. Your instant acceptance of that and making it a dichotomy is the issue. You can say it's logical all day long and lay it out in your prepositions like you just did. We cannot disagree with you. But I will tell you that it's not a dichotomy. It doesn't have to be, I didn't know, therefore aliens.
No, it doesn't have to be, I didn't know, therefore aliens. But it has to be, I don't know, therefore information.
Right. And you spent 20 minutes giving that your attention and just went, aliens.
No.
People in the chat are lost. Anyone who doesn't follow us on a Tuesday, Richard, could you give a quick synopsis of you did great on Tuesday.
Okay.
Your wee short synopsis.
I'm going to do it a little bit longer this time with a little bit more detail.
Okay.
Okay? Because we have time right now. We're not opening a show. This is the show.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I'm going to open it up now in a wee while.
Okay. The logic goes like this. If there's information contained in a piece of literary work, which information I was not privy to and people of the age that it's dated back to were not privy to, and later science would confirm these ideas, then certainly the authorship cannot be man on this earth. It wasn't ancient goat herders, which is a straw man anyway, but it wasn't well-educated, knowledgeable people who, you know, were scribes in the ancient Near East. That's not who wrote this story. It can't be, okay? So the next question is, who could write this story? Well, if it's knowledge of our undiscovered near solar system, then it's those who knew more about our solar system than we did. Well, what kind of a being could know more about our solar system than we did at the time? Well, I think a good suggestion would be anyone who's flown past here would know more about it than we would. You know, if they had the technology to fly by, they could do some pretty rudimentary observations, know more about it than we would, because we just didn't have the technology. In this case, an actual telescope. So that's the general logic of it right there.
That doesn't really, in my opinion, inform anyone about your belief systems and why we're mentioning aliens and giving a context. But
well, living beings not from this planet are definitionally alien.
Right. Well, people are asking questions in the chat, right? Is God an alien? No, God's a set of ideas, right? I'm just going to answer the questions for you precisely so that the people are understanding, right? There is no God per se, okay? God is a group of 7 ideas that is lived by the council of Jesuses that are Jesus would be a person on that particular planet who has led them through the end of the world when the aliens come back and mine the planet for all its minerals. Adam is the first slave that was freed from the original bad aliens. This is the 23rd Earth. Yahweh. Yahweh is also God. Yahweh is a group of ideals, yes? Or is Yahweh the previous Jesus from the last Earth?
Oh, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, Yahweh, or loosely God, is the seven spirits.
Yes, right. Sure. Okay, yeah. And every father, that's what it is. The father in the Bible is the Jesus from the previous Earth that is now helping the Jesus of this Earth.
Correct.
That sounds a wee bit more different than what you explained.
Okay. You cheated. You read the questions. I was just trying to answer you.
Getting to the point of it again, though, Richard, you received information. You assumed that it was from aliens. Or did
No.
they tell you I'm an alien?
No, they didn't say they were alien, and I didn't assume they were alien, either one of those things. Not
Well, if
first.
they didn't tell you and you didn't assume it, how did you come to the conclusion that they were?
Because what I already understood about what information is, and know my experience, so I know it wasn't my information.
Yes,
And
but you
because of
went
my
aliens
age
and not FBI downloading shit into my brain. You know?
that doesn't make any sense. I don't think that's plausible.
Yes, but why did you pick aliens?
I didn't pick aliens. It's just that they had to know more than we did, and they communicated, and if they don't live here but communicated something that we didn't yet know, that makes them alien.
No. They communicated something that you don't yet know.
No, that we didn't yet know. That there were 4 major moons over Jupiter.
Well,
What
you
the
kn- that
coloration
information was
compared to
literally
signs.
known when you were given this video because you went to Google to confirm it.
Yes, it was known by the time I was introduced.
Yes, so by
to
the time
idea.
you looked. So when you got this information, when you went through this thing, okay, what information did you get that confirmed for you that it was aliens?
Well, we could go back forth all day of how I must have already known it somehow, but literally that it's in the story.
Well, it's
And
not
then
that
the
you must have
story-
already known it. It
What's
looks
that?
like you're going in with a presupposition.
Yes,
Yeah.
that it's false. That was my presupposition. This is all a bunch of bullshit. I did have one, you're right.
I mean, like, I would
So
just kind of
most of
say
us-
that, like, you know, there's a lot of the things that you're kind of saying that, like, you know, so this happened, and then of course it meant this, and then of course it meant that. It's just, does it of course mean this? And you know what I mean? Like, does one necessarily lead to the other? I
Let's
can't
run it
remember
down.
exactly what you had said. So I can't exactly fill in the blanks on that. I hope you can follow me, but
Sure.
yeah, it's basically just like, well, I mean, like, what for you necessarily led from A to B?
Okay. It goes like this. I'm 54. They did not have great, gorgeous pictures of the moons over Jupiter when I was a kid. We had not sent a probe that far yet to take those pictures. The
In
probe didn't
54,
yet
I'm not
exist.
sure we had sent anything into orbit yet, but yeah, you're
I
right.
said I'm 54.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said in 54. I'm sorry.
No, I'm 54.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
I graduated high school a year late. If you want to do the math, you'll figure that out. In 89. 89? Oh my gosh, 98? Holy crap, I'm so lost.
You can't do the
98.
math.
Let's see, the Desert
89.
Storm. Yeah, 89. Thanks. Sorry, dyslexia. Anyway,
Anyone else would like to
So-
join? We have another 4 slots available, just not what's showing on. Sorry, 3 slots available, Nancy, if you want to come in or anything like that, there, come on in.
So we had telescope pictures of the moons in my science books, okay? And you cannot tell from those photographs the kind of detail that was in the movie that played in my head concerning those 4 moons. That was not there. Go ahead.
Okay, so and sorry because I'm new to talking with you.
We're
have
doing
not
the
been
pure
familiar.
logic thing. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, absolutely. No, fine. So what you're saying is that you had a mental image of the Galilean moons of Jupiter that was extremely specific and contained information in a quantity and detail and kind that you don't think it is remotely plausible that that was a coincidence of some sort, and you think that the information was placed there.
Yes.
Okay. That helps me understand. Thank you.
And I know what I was doing all those years, watching comedy shows and in the military and then in construction, and I had no interest in such topics. So it's not like I could forget, the things I'm interested in and the kinds of things I would go and seek out. I know that I wasn't a space guy. For that matter, I was never a fossil guy either, although that's popular with boys and girls. Don't kill me. But I know I wasn't interested in those things, and I never went back and looked. I mean, okay, for God's sakes, I'm out of high school. I'm so freaking happy now I can have a life and get married and stuff. I hated learning stuff that anyway. So I wasn't exposed to it in school. I did not further my education. I wasn't interested in those sorts of things, and the chances of being accidentally exposed to them at the level of detail that was in this movie and that played in my head, it's a very, very remote possibility. But I have no such recollection of any such exposure. Of course, we can argue the subconscious. But I just wasn't into that sort of thing. But anyway, so the level of detail, I would contest that I can draw a better picture right now of the moon Io based on that than NASA has. Even right now.
That's testable.
Yes, it is.
Have you made a detailed account of your predictions for what will be found out? Have you done I don't know if you're autistic or something, but artistic, not autistic. Sorry, artistic. Right. If you could draw it.
There
one half dozen the other.
If I can interrupt, there is a meteorite at the minute which Richard's unsure about. Whenever it did happen, it followed the pattern of what Richard has described. This in Richard's story, in his dream, there is a meteorite that gets broken up into 6 parts, if I'm right, Richard, or 5.
Yes,
and that's the 6 stones that he uses in the story of David and Goliath. And there's a recent meteorite that has...
5 or David and Goliath, sir.
Thank you. And that particular meteorite is now traveling through the system. I can't remember what the fucking name of it is. We were all excited whenever it happened. Me, Spooky, and
I do know the name of it. And if it doesn't break up soon, it can't be the right one, by the way. It's got to be pretty darn soon. It's got maybe 4 to 6 months left before it has to be broken up. Okay, it's Comet C, meaning comet, 2017. K as in kilo, the number 2 again, and the name of it was found by a novice in their backyard somewhere, but confirmed by Pan-STARRS telescope, which is PANSTARRS, Pan-STARRS.
Thank you for joining, Nancy.
I first started talking, although that's not David and Goliath. That story doesn't start out David and Goliath. That story starts out Jericho. But anyway, I was talking about something doing what that comet has done in 2013. I told several people about what I thought the story meant. But it has been on the right path. It has fulfilled that prophecy of day gone. And I was talking about it since 2017 is when it was located. I was talking about for literally 4 years before it was found in space. Now, if I just bought a telescope and looked where I thought it would be coming from, I'd have been the discoverer of it. But I'm a poor man, and I cannot buy, a 6-inch by computer-operated blah, blah, blah.
Now, Richard has spoke about this meteorite to me. I didn't know Richard before 2017, but Richard's brother, Beck, Beck has the link if they're watching or whatever, get a chance to come in. And Beck has confirmed that Richard has been saying this before we found out that it was real. So this would be a prediction that could be confirmed,
Yeah. So going forward, you said it was going to break up. Where does it break up? In an interaction with Jupiter?
No, sir. No. Let me just give you. Just K2 pan stars. The prophecy is that it would pass in front of the head and hands of Dagon, today called Draco. So the constellation Draco.
Okay.
That it would cut off the heads and hands of Draco. It would go under our solar system, which it is now. That alone, that it's looping under, is fulfilled prophecy in my mind. There's nothing that said it had to loop under and actually start circling the sun. Except
it's either going to go under or over, so it's a factor of 2 either way.
No,
right?
that's not true. What I mean by, let's say this, you're not understanding my English. Let's say this was the sun, right? Part of the prophecy is that it goes under the sun and starts coming back upward. Okay? Yeah. Now, it could have just gone like this and kept it going down. I'm not saying it wouldn't be changed by the gravitational field of the sun.
Okay.
But it could have pierced the solar system only once.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So it's sufficiently captured that the hyperbola is not extremely shallow. It's actually comes up.
Okay, we're together again. Thank you. Thank you for the effort. I appreciate your patience. Okay.
Excuse me, if I could ask a question and reflect back, how did this whole conversation start anyhow on a prophecy? I'm just lost here. I mean, what does this have to do with conversion and moons and?
This is Richard's conversion. This is Richard's conversion to him. I don't know an awful lot of zealots that are willing to be pressured and poked on their conversion. Richard is, in his own proclamation, a zealot and religion.
Conversion to Christianity? Conversion to Christianity?
I didn't say Christianity. I said religion.
Okay.
So Richard's religion.
Maybe Richard can confirm.
Yeah, well, whatever religion it is, it could be Buddhists, it could be anything, whatever. It's the fact that it's the conversion to religion, and Richard is the only zealot that I could grab my hands on with, and be comfortable with asking questions. I know lots of people whose religion consumes their life, but are very impatient on, takes offense on trying to get down and dirty into their conversion and shit like that. An atheist asking these questions could come across as ignorant and dismissive, where another Christian asking these questions would be a confirmation, So asking Richard these questions, I don't want him to get defensive. I know he won't, because we do it every Tuesday. So it's a conversion from where he was into religion in general.
Okay.
Mr. Tapioca Weasel is asking questions about this because they are new to the channel and don't really know an awful lot about Richard's backstory. So they're just trying to get Richard's backstory and seeing the connection of the conversion.
Yeah, and understanding sort of the logic behind the conclusions, which so far I am understanding. Things have been holding together,
So yes, meteorite coming in.
Sorry. Peace and respect, New Genesis Connection.
Hello, Heretic.
I'm somehow lagging in here. Can people hear me okay? I'm I'm not hearing some voices. They're cutting in and out.
No, we
I
can
can
hear
hear
you
you.
100%. All's good.
Okay, because I sometimes have a bad connection out here where I'm at in the middle of nowhere.
We just
Because
lost
I'm not
Stephen
hearing
and Maya.
that right now.
Richard,
No.
I had a so it's gone in and then it was going to come out instead of just slightly deflecting. Moving forward, what does the prophecy predict which
Right.
pan stars may or may not follow, you know?
It needs to break up into 6 separate parts. One of those parts needs to miss the planet Mercury. 5 of the parts need to hit the planet Mercury.
Okay, that is an extremely specific
Oh,
Yes.
it gets
prediction.
even more. Oh, wait till you hear the next part, man. Get on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, go on. If that occurs, by the way, I'm gonna have some serious thinking to do because that's not something you have any
Yeah.
business knowing.
Right. Well, I don't think that I know it. I think the story proclaims it. And I think the reading frame that I use to read the story proclaims it, not that I know anything.
Okay.
So so far
So
it's
one
been
of-
true.
So one of the
Go on.
pieces are supposed to hit Earth or what?
Yes. In fact, that would make the Blood Sea miracle, as you know it.
They're supposed to hit Earth. I thought you said Mercury.
One.
Is the other piece supposed to-
I'm gonna repeat what I'd said, then her question, then I'm gonna answer yours.
Okay.
Then
Just
it'll
let the
break
story
up into
run
6
through.
parts.
Let the story run through. Get to the end, and then you'll ask questions.
It's too much. It's too much. That K2 pan stars will break up into 6 parts for reasons unknown. All right. 5 of those parts will hit the southern hemisphere, and it was always the southern hemisphere before it even got close to the sun. So part of it was that it would loop under the sun and start heading back up, which is the present prediction by NASA. I can show you charts. It'll break up into 6 parts. 5 parts will hit the planet Mercury. That is, David picks up 5 smooth stones from the brook, if you know the story. 1 part will miss the planet Mercury. He picks up only 5 stones, not 6. Okay? That at a future time, this jumps way forward in the story, that chunk of K2 pan stars gets pulled in by the Earth's gravitational field. It falls specifically into an ocean. There is a harsh chemical reaction that would dissolve the hull of modern boats, which, as you probably know, are steels and metals and plastics. So nasty chemical. And it claims in the story that anything 200, I know this is a gross estimate, and I'm sorry, this is what it reads. 200-mile surface area. So 200 square mile surface area is affected. It does not talk about the cone that is affected, nor does it talk about streams and movement of the poisons, chemicals in the water, but it says everything in that part of the ocean dies, which I imagine if it could dissolve steel, that'd kill a fish, you know?
If I can, Richard, back into space. Keep going. What happens after the Mercury?
Okay. So actually there's a claim in the text that although partly responsible, the gravitational model does not fully account for why planets stay in their orbit, and an intrinsic part of this is the claim that there are energetic fields aside from gravity helping to maintain. Now, we have not proven this. In fact, it's very fringe science. Sir?
I think that Mr. Tapioca Weasel, and if I can, Richard, what he's trying to hint towards would be the idea of the electric universe.
Yes.
Where's this thing supposed to hit on Earth?
No, that's later in the story,
what's
Nancy.
supposed to hit
We're skipping ahead. Let him get. We'll get to that. But the idea is Richard's leaning towards electric
that really
universe.
quick without getting distracted. It's a major body of water. Doesn't say which one. Okay, so curving under the sun, the other 5 parts hitting the planet Mercury, saying specifically where it hits. Everyone's always saying, "Where's your detail in your prophecy?" How do you like this for detail?
You're doing fine on that.
All 5 of the stones will hit on the southern hemisphere. I've been saying that since MathPig has known me, and it still hasn't happened yet.
The first night we talked at 3 a.m, I got the David and Goliath story. So the first night we met, I got this.
Well, I figure it's the first story I got. Maybe it's the first one I'm supposed to tell. I mean, that seems to make sense on its face. Okay, it hits where there is in a shepherd's bag. That's a man purse, right? And it hits within a script. There are 5 major mountain ranges, and you can't see it in every picture of Mercury, but I can bring you to certain pictures where the elevation is highlighted by brightness.
Yeah.
Because they like doing stuff like that at NASA. And I can show you the 5 major mountain ranges on the southern hemisphere of the planet Jupiter that are, one is a very, very straight
Mercury.
line.
Mercury.
Yes, you're right. I totally just boffed it. You're right. Thank you.
No problem.
The southern hemisphere of Mercury, not Jupiter at all, Mercury. Yeah, you don't see mountain ranges on Jupiter at all, do you?
Not yet.
that really do appear to be a very long straight line covering almost 2/3 of the total southern hemisphere. And then as the planet naturally rotates, if you stayed in one position, as the planet rotates, the next one would be a quote-unquote like a closed mouth U shape, and there's an impact crater right in it. If you want to know the name of that impact, it's Fram, F-R-A-M, Rupes, R-U-P-E-S. And you'll see the closed mouth U with the rock still.
P-E-S?
F-R-A-M, R-U-P-E-S, Mercury.
Hey, you're back.
Welcome back.
Looking pretty.
And that would be the sling and stone. And then as it rotates further, you get a big open mouth lazy J. I'm calling that's the shepherd's bag. And then you have two mountain ranges that are like twins. So they're like the same length, very close to the same height and length. And, I mean, they look like identical, and they're like almost perfectly parallel. They're very close to parallel. And I'm calling that the scroll. So the 5 stones have to hit in and amongst those 2 mountain ranges.
Can you, if you have it handy, I would love to, if you could post a link to like an image that, because yeah, I can read. If you give me like just an image with elevation, I can probably try and find some of these things.
If I
Okay.
can,
I don't
can
know
I
if you
just
have it
interrupt
handy.
when there's a wee interjection? Richard, what date in 2017 was the comet found?
What date in that's not in the name, and I never looked it up.
It's the 21st of May
Thank you.
Okay.
in 2017. I have the Wikipedia page open. I put it in. Yeah, I can put it in the other chat.
21st
What
of
is with
May,
the
I
name
think.
Tapioca Weasel? What-
21st of
What
May,
is that?
just with numerology, is quite funny because 7 and 17 is my number, and that's 3 sevens. It's another 7. It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Oh
Tapioca
my
Weasel
gosh,
doesn't
that's-
mean anything. That's just been my handle since
That's lovely.
early high school.
I love
Nancy,
I love that it doesn't
Nancy
mean
was
a
trying to
damn
say
thing. I
something.
love
If I could
that.
just give Nancy the floor a wee second there.
Oh, okay. I was just going to ask, I mean, when is this thing supposed to hit Earth, and how big is it? Is this the thing that is talked about in Revelation?
There is other stuff that happens between Mercury getting hit and it hitting Earth. He will get till it hitting Earth. Just give it a, there is
Okay, I'm
if we,
sorry, I'm getting ahead of things here, I
yeah,
guess.
it's the skipping will throw the whole story off, because the next thing that Richard's going to say that I've been dying to scream out for like 20 minutes since he started will just make, I'm waiting to see Mr. Weasel's face.
Yeah. Okay. So it hits. So I want to reground myself on where we are in the story. It's gonna the 5 chunks that hit Mercury are gonna hit in the southern hemisphere, and they're gonna hit according to locations on mountain ranges that resemble the shapes of things that appear in the story of David and Goliath. Right?
Spot
Okay.
on.
Fantastic.
You're following. Okay. Here's the controversial and predictive part against mainstream science. You ready? This causes David, the planet Mercury, to run to the giant Jupiter, i.e., that this series of events I just described dislodges a planet from its orbit.
Yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow. Not gonna lie.
I
Keep
know.
going. No, keep going. Keep going. What does it do, right? It flies over the top of Venus and Earth's orbit without affecting
Mars.
their gravity or being pulled in, and then
Yep.
gets pulled in towards Jupiter. So it's all boing, wee, bang.
Yeah, it's got to do like an arc like this over Mercury. I'm sorry, Venus, Earth, and Mars, and the asteroid belts. It's got to go around get around, quote unquote, the army of the Philistines.
Right, hold on, Richard. I wouldn't say that it technically has to do an arc. It only has to do an arc if there's a planetary alignment. The planets could be over there. There is a circle. They could miss them on the way past. Doesn't
No, totally
necessarily
valid.
have to do an arc.
Totally valid.
What,
I was being
that's not
facetious
the
when I
crazy
did this.
part that's not the scientifically implausible part of
Right.
what he said. that
Yeah,
part
the-
is the conservation of momentum.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah, we can predict stuff like that. Weight, gravitational pull, arc, dropping, being pulled toward. We can predict all that crap easy. No, the controversial part is something that small
Yeah.
at
Hitting something
those
that
low
big.
speeds
That's not going to happen.
and hard, hitting something else, a planet which is considerably larger and is also hard.
When you've got things that big, they're not hard. They're all just clumpy. Like the solidity of objects at that size when they collide, it's basically irrelevant to what happens. They could be made out of water, or they could be made out of ice. Very little. You're not going to get a whole lot of difference.
I'm just saying you can't compare this to bouncy rubber balls.
Yeah.
I have a
Yeah,
comparison too, though. I was mentioning to Richard last night, I guess, when you were on, about the works of Immanuel Velikovsky. And he has like 5 books that he's written. He was contemporary of Einstein. And he wrote a series of 5 historical books where he researched the entire history of the world at the time of the Exodus. And what he claimed through all of his research is that during the Exodus, what happened was Venus was a comet at the time. Then we went through the fiery tail of Venus. And it's the same similar type of a situation. And that created a lot of havoc on Earth. So, I mean, I'm listening intently now.
That's interesting to me, New Genesis, because the name Abinadab, which holds the place of Venus in this story, means recent volunteer.
I mean, it's so, his works are so extensive. I couldn't even begin to, tell you more, but I mean, it was recorded by civilizations all over the earth. It wasn't just one little thing about the Exodus story, but it happened to all nations. It was like Earth and Upheaval is one of his books. So it's an interesting, I couldn't put the stuff down, put it that way. I mean, I spent about a year going and finding all of his works and reading them.
It's very interesting. And should I live to be 300 years old in heaven, I might research some of that.
What's the next big thing in your story that Mr. Weasel may have a problem with? After Mercury goes and catches up with Jupiter, it sort of gives Jupiter this big giant hug, and Jupiter turns into the second sun.
Okay, so here's how it goes in the story. The Philistines are rolling migratories, and the Philistines are on the outside of the Philistine army. Now, closer to Saul, the only king who shows up for the story, Saul is in the center of the total war scene. Then you have the brothers, the smaller brothers of David, which are apparently older.
Yeah,
now
he's the
they
youngest
show
of,
up
of 12 or something, right? Or
what's
11?
that?
He's the youngest of a bunch of kids. Jesse's like one of Jesse's youngest, right, David?
It's such a small detail. I wasn't even going to mention it, but he has 7 older brothers, and himself, and Goliath makes 9.
Okay. Yeah, but Pluto's not a planet. Oh, are you including the sun?
Nope, not including the sun. Saul is not part of his family.
Ah, okay.
But Saul is the son in the story. Okay, so the story has David somehow getting around 2 armies. And it's just kind of blown over by Christians. They don't even talk about how he got past 2 armies.
Very carefully.
And then he gets around the shield of Goliath as well, which we know the biggest moon in our solar system is indeed Ganymede. Although Titan is more popular for reasons unknown to me.
It's the liquid stuff on its surface.
Yeah, it's the cloud and all that sort of shit. Yeah.
It's more interesting. Is that why?
It's more interesting in ways that are relevant to astrobiology and astroecology in in
Richard,
that makes
if you
sense.
can
Thank
just
you.
finish your point that you're making, and then I do want
Nope.
to interject with something.
Nope. Just to go ahead and interject, man.
Okay, the whole point of slamming this down, which I think is also going to hit Nancy a wee bit, the whole point of giving this explanation and sort of backstory, which we've went a lot of detail into, which we've covered lots of times in this channel before. I know we're giving you a wee bit. I think we've given you enough fucking leeway, Mr. Weasel. We all have heard this story before, right?
Yeah, thank you very much. I apologize for
the whole
making everybody
idea of
repeat
this
themselves.
is Richard experienced, and if I can describe it, Richard, and slam me down if I'm wrong, an actual visual representation of the David and Goliath story as humans that meshed and melded and became the planets. Is that correct, Richard? It started as humans and then
I think I can say
became
it
this.
better. That the characters were all in place according to the story, and the dream sequence morphed them into planets,
Right.
which
Now,
I thought was not true.
that's your experience that you went through, and this is the issue that me and Maya and Stephen had as well. Stephen, unfortunately, his entire street has went down of electric. There's not even fucking street lights. He's sitting in his room in the dark, all afraid. This is the issue that me and Maya and Stephen had with what you've went through. You give it 20 minutes of research. You confirmed the planets' names. You confirmed the moon's names, sorry. You confirmed that information was out there and real and that you didn't know it before. So therefore, this is real. What you just described to Mr. Weasel, I'm not worried about the information being correct. I'm more worried about, I just had a fucking real life hallucination. I need to check some shit. The idea of giving it 20 minutes research, confirming that these things exist and then going, yippity doo dah, I'm there. That's not an experience and a conversion and worthy of becoming a zealot. That, in my opinion, which is disrespectful to you when I say this, is the signs of an idiot who just went and experienced something, checked it for 20 minutes and went, fuck it, it must be true. And I don't give you, I think I have more respect for you than that.
Can I back
Okay,
up
I
Richard there?
wasn't a zealot in 20 minutes. I didn't think that this
Your
has to be
conversion
the-
to this is true took less than 20
I
minutes.
accepted this in less than 20 minutes, that this has to be an outside informational source. There's still the question of what's the source, who's the source.
Can I back up Richard a bit?
Want to head Heretic? Quick question.
Well, I'm going to back him up actually. So it takes 20 minutes, but from what I can tell, it's taken 25 years ever since then, constantly verifying and validating it. Is that right, Richard?
Well, trying to disprove it, not trying to validate it.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Music to my ears.
The scientific method. You're going, well, is this true? Is this true? But the first 20 minutes gave you that inkling that went, I need to look into this because it's giving me some kind of belief that I'm not really prepared yet to undertake. And everything you have done since then has more confirmed your belief because you still have not found anything that you can disvalidate it with. Is that right?
Yes. That's what
Other
I find
than-
interesting about all this. It's falsifiable and so far is not falsified. Like, these are
Yeah.
real things in reality.
Yeah.
The electric
but-
universe, I do believe, has been falsified. You say
I
not
would agree with that.
confirmed. I would say falsified.
I would
Alright,
say electric
so-
universe doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Okay.
What would
Could
it look like?
I bring up? There was a book in 19.
After you're finished, Heretic, I do want to hear from Maya.
Yeah, apologies. There was a book in 1987 or 1986 that was published, which was 88 Reasons Why the End of the Earth Would Arise in 1988. And that was all post hoc interpretations of the Bible, different interpretations, interesting interpretations. Lots of people believed it and sold their farms and thought, hey, we're going up there, we're going. And then it didn't happen. And this is what this sounds like to me. You've been able to, you've come up with or you felt you've been given a revelation of which you have then taking it forward and accepting it. And I'm not going to try to dissuade you from that at all. Because I find it
The nigger
fascinating
babies on the
speaking.
cross, because they're niggers. Let me
Need
tell
to
you
get
what the
rid of
nigger
that
boy, nigger
math-
boy.
Oh yeah, get the bad breaks, baby. Oh yeah, get it real good. Oh yeah, you can execute nigger babies on cross, man. Oh yeah, nigga, execute nigger. Oh fucking niggas, man. Fucking niggas, man. Oh yeah.
Why? What the hell? What the hell did you
I'm
bring with
properly
you, Wildheart?
traumatized.
Nothing to do with me. I just joined at a bad time, it seems.
Literally, yous all joined at the exact same time. Yous all joined at the
Wow.
exact same time.
Yeah.
Wow, what are you doing?
Well, Hurt, you've got to stop inviting your
I have
cousins to
nothing to
these
do with them.
things.
Yeah, I have nothing to do with them. That was just coincidence. And I
Yeah.
just joined at that time, it seemed. Yeah, I don't know who
I
they were.
can't even see myself in here.
Okay. 1 second, please.
What a smashing entrance.
They clearly didn't enjoy what I was saying at all.
Well, the best thing about this setup is that only the people on panel get to see 99.9% of that.
Ah, cool.
I don't know what
Well,
you're talking
your
about.
stream is actually all over the place, and there was some.
Oh
stuff
yeah,
coming through.
I'm fixing that now at the minute. That's how I make
way-
sure that none of this shit happens.
I think the way to handle it is to just like move on as though it never happened.
So, Richard,
No, I'm
Did-
traumatized. I'll
Richard-
never forget that.
Richard, did you understand what I was saying? It's a bit choosing stuff that makes sense. But what I like is that it's verifiable as a prophecy, and it has to happen soon.
If you don't mind
that.
me jumping
Yes.
ahead just a little bit, the ramifications of what I believe, if the stories are saying what I believe they're saying, is I should be very good to you, and we should be very good to each other until such time it's obvious we can't stay on the planet. Has nothing
Well, we're
to do
all
with anyone
screwed
like.
then.
Has nothing to do with anyone like doing anything except for trying to be more considerate of other humans.
But is that not presupposing there's a time where we shouldn't be on the planet?
No,
What-
it's
what-
necessitating it. It's not presupposing it.
if
It's part
I
of the
could
story that
finish
we-
my point that I made before the demons arrived. The reason Richard's went through this is to go over the whole what about it taking over your life?
Mhm.
You know? And why did you, this is the reason and the question I asked earlier, Richard, which I don't think we had eventually got to. Why did you eventually land on aliens? Tapioca Weasel asked this question. What was the ABC where C was the information came from aliens? Could
My
you
memory
describe
could be
that?
wrong, but we were trying to give the floor to Maya.
Yeah, thank you. I just got thrown off. I'm a little thrown off.
It's okay.
Wildheart, don't be fucking just down in that. Like, just seriously, man. I'm giving you some fucking chance. Yeah, you see,
Sorry.
doesn't work now, you silly bastards. Bye.
What just happened?
Oh, they're trying to do it again, but I've put a block up.
All right.
Thank God. Thank you
Yeah,
for that.
sorry.
Anyways,
I looked it up.
Richard, you said that you were trying to falsify it. What does it look like?
Yes.
What would it being falsified look like to you?
Okay, if actually there's like 40 points of falsification just within David and Goliath. Here's a few of them. I'm not going to try to list them all.
No, yeah.
Here's a few of them. If there were not 4 major mountain ranges on the southern hemisphere of Mercury that look like they do, look like a staff, a sling, a shepherd's bag, and within the shepherd's bag a script. Like, even if just the script were outside the shepherd's bag, you know, I would have a big problem with that, and I'd have to say, well, something got transposed here, or I have to reconsider, you know, just based on that one data point. Or like, if the moons over Jupiter had not looked like brass and iron and dark with white points, which is the definition of shield, dark with white points. And a really bright, shiny one being represented as a sword. I'm sorry, I'm going to respect Maya here. She was so patient.
Sorry.
If they had not been those colors and those relative distances from the planet they were orbiting, I would have had a problem with that. I mean, but that was 2 points out of 40.
I don't mean to be disrespectful. It just kind of sounds like, you know, Christians say, I asked God for a sign, and then, you know, I saw a rainbow or a butterfly. It kind of seems like that to me, where it's just like, you know, I expected to see this, and then I looked until I saw this, and, you know, it confirmed my notions, my preconceived notions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying so hard to give you the benefit of the doubt. But as you keep talking, I keep coming back to that.
Okay.
I mean, am I wrong? Does anybody else see it differently?
I had an experience in a dream one time that was sort of out of this world. I'd gone to bed that one night, and I had prayed before I went to sleep. I'd like to see a little bit of heaven. And in that dream that night that I had, I heard the Hallelujah chorus playing in a place where I was in heaven, a big banquet table. And I couldn't believe my ears. I will never forget it, because the sound came from all over the universe. And it was the most beautiful thing I could have ever imagined. And when I guess it was Handel's choir or something like that, the music Hallelujah chorus. And it was just, I hadn't thought about it for a while after that. And then one day I got curious and I looked up Mendel or Handel, I can't remember his name exactly. And his history and story behind it is that he received that music from an inspiration from heaven. It wasn't something that he got just by himself. So, I mean, I was just sort of blown away by it, because it could never be repeated. Anyhow,
Well, that was, if you'll forgive me, New Genesis Connection, that was interesting personal testimony and not the topic at all.
I know. I just added that. Sorry.
Maya, I don't know how to say this that would necessarily work well for you, and I might have to ask some clarifying questions. And Maya, I want you to know that I regard you highly in humanity as a person. Mm-hmm. I think that you've been an intelligent and fair person as far as I've known you, at least the majority of the time, if not constantly. So I don't mean you any disrespect. I want you to know that I have that level of respect for you. You are right now agnostic or atheistic, something like that. Would you? I'd put a
I am
label
not
on it.
an
Just
atheist.
what's that?
I am not an atheist.
What would you consider yourself to be?
Maya.
I haven't found a term that adequately coins my beliefs.
That's fair enough. Okay. So
Honest woman.
yeah, as I said, she would be, but try to imagine going to the absolute opposite end of the spectrum from where you stand right now.
Mm-hmm. Many
Now,
times.
Now, well, many times. I was very assured there could be no gods. I was extremely confident about it. I argued it with people who were willing. So I was a hard what they call the hard atheistic position, making the positive claim there can be no gods. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I liked my life. I did. It was a good life. I was enjoying it a lot. And as far as I could tell from that standpoint at that time, I was relatively well adjusted. I was building a construction, remodeling, finishing business, right? And I had a very pretty girlfriend who was not a typical theist. She was semi-American Buddhist kind of a person, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like she kept crystals, but only one, you know? And she hugged trees, but only once or twice a year, you know? Not too much of an extremist. A lovely woman, really. And I liked my expensive toys, you know? And I liked taking a little bit of risk in my personal life, maybe with somebody on the back of my motorcycle, you know?
Which was, and the sunglasses were, with a description of the leather jacket. For context, Richard was in the chat earlier before the stream about 3 hours. Someone asked the question, and it was the sunglasses were this, the motorcycle was this, the leather jacket was that.
Yeah, Tog was right. I was totally brown bomber jacket, yellow Serengetis on a Yamaha Silverado 1700 with a fifth of Captain Morgan's in the saddlebag.
I'd love to have met that Richard.
He's gone. That's a dead man. So, I mean, I thought, and my family thought I was just fine. Like, I was content and stuff. So much so that when I told my family about this, they had, unbeknownst to me, a family meeting where they tried to figure out if I had lost my ever-loving mind and or how bad did that horrible, horrible woman hurt him. Like that. If that builds a frame for you. Okay. I did not want this. Now, am I more considerate of you as a human being, not in my inner circle, than I was before? Yes, I couldn't give two craps about you. I literally hid in a shrub with a 9mm to snipe a man 12, 13 years my junior so that I could gain his girlfriend to have casual sex with. Okay? If that gives you a ballpark idea of what I was like. Also, don't mess with my family because I don't value your life.
Okay. I don't understand how your beliefs now change that.
Because I understand that you will be an angel and I should treat you as such now. And that includes every human on this planet.
Is that
and it
called
really doesn't matter what
universalism?
you think of that, and it doesn't even matter what you think of me. It doesn't matter.
I can work with that. That doesn't seem like so bad.
So
No, I don't think
what that? Sorry, go on.
Go ahead.
What that suggests to me, Richard, is that it was very much a benefit that you found God, for want of a better term. Whatever way you want to interpret it and define it, it's up to you. But I think humanity has benefited from that as opposed to the type of person you were.
I see it that way, yes.
And I am thankful for that.
So I wasn't a zealot in 20 minutes. I was persuaded that the stories could not have been written by mankind in 20 minutes. Now there's a whole bunch of work to do.
Now, my issue, Richard, is the connection between the story that you've got, which takes all the bits and applies a brand new story to it, outside of the realm of Earth, versus the story that was in the Bible, which was about Saul and David and Goliath, and David becoming the leader of the Jews, of which you've got your own interpretation of it. And I accept that. And it's everyone can have their own interpretation. I don't agree. I don't agree with what you're saying.
I knew
but
that
at
was
least,
coming next.
But at least yours is falsifiable in terms of your story, dependent on this comet.
I did have a question about that, actually. So you mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, or at least when I joined it, there you mentioned something about if it doesn't break apart into the 6 pieces, which I now understand better, then it's not this comet. Is there a time limit on the prophecy? Does it have to be this comet? And if not, then it kind of stops being as falsifiable.
Right. If you free up the parameters, you can say, well, the next one's going to do it, right?
Yes. Precisely. That's exactly how I would describe. Yeah, you can just parameter space is infinitely large.
Yeah. Now, you're a science-minded guy, from what I understand of you, though I don't know you very well.
I'm a physicist.
That would help.
Yeah.
Okay, so
why I wanted you two to talk, and the only fucking that your little framed PhD is the only reason you got the whole 20 minutes of explanation, you motherfucker, because he is actually a physicist.
Okay, so I want to say that I'm not. I'm a monster with a chainsaw and a backhoe, okay?
Well, okay, that sounds like a threat.
I'm just saying.
Just kidding.
See, that just the first thing I thought of was Richard's homemade chair. That's the first.
Yeah, I make my own custom furniture to suit perfectly to my body. But okay, so you'll understand what this means because you understand planes. I once took, without any markings, without any measurings, without any grade tools, I once cut 600 feet of a continuous 1/100 slope, which means 1 foot of drop for every 100 feet. And then they shot a transit with that. It was never off by 3/4 of an inch. I'm a heavy equipment operator.
That's impressive. I don't know exactly why it's impressive, but I know it's impressive.
Imagine a plane cut without measurements, just by feel, just by how you feel about it, right?
Oh yeah, no, that's it. You're off by how much?
I was never off by as much as, it was less than 3/4 of an inch off at all times.
Yeah, I couldn't. If I'd be off by like 5 feet.
Like you could throw a road on that. You could throw a road on that, and you wouldn't feel the bumps in your car.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, so that's what I'm good at. That's what I know.
I appreciate that. It's
okay. So I am not learned in these things, nor was I back in 2012. I know that because you have to know so much in order to get to where I already was 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, I was already so far that I would have, well, first of all, I'd had to know the Hebrew language at like like a societal level. Not schooling wouldn't be good enough.
Do you know it suddenly?
No, I don't suddenly know it, but I keep knowing what the words have to mean.
Okay.
That is context. The context shows me what the words have to mean, and there have been zero wrong so far. It's all within the usage of a language I can't read.
How do you know if they've been wrong or not?
Because there's been scholars, and they do know them, and then when I look them up, they're already within the context.
Okay, well then...
I'll give an example. Sometimes in the King James, when we didn't have definitions for all these words, they just left the word out.
Yeah.
And then they bridged it with a conjunction to make it into an English sentence. But we literally did not have the definitions of the words. But the context demand that an undefined word mean a certain thing.
No, well, no. It means it can't mean certain things, but it does not specify the meaning well enough to define it. Most of the time,
No, you get
it doesn't.
You get like
If it did, language would have this constant, huge redundancy that it kind of has, but not most of the time.
Right, I'm following you and you're following.
The words, huh?
I'm following you and you're following.
Yeah.
Because you have a range of usage.
Yeah, you have a range, but sometimes that range can be pretty big.
Yes, okay. But I'm talking about not one occurrence of that. I'm talking about many, 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 many occurrences of that.
Well, yeah,
which is different.
That's typically true. It's one of those things like, for example, crucifixion. It's my understanding that we do not know the details of exactly what crucifixion looked like in the ancient world. There are a lot of descriptions of it. We know the role it played, in like society and stuff, and what it was for, and some of the details of how it it clearly involved some sort of sticking somebody up on a thing. Okay.
Elevation
but
on
we don't
wood.
know. We don't know if it was a cross. Exactly. No. The Jehovah's Witnesses swear it was a.
Romans used to use an awful lot of the X because it could be mass produced.
Yeah, the X things like the fucking
pure logistics, easy made, quick, up balances itself.
Sorry,
Phony, hold on. I just want to address something in the chat. People looking a link to join. First thing, must know you. Second thing, send me a DM. Asking me what my Discord is and who I am is not proof that you know me. Ain't getting on, dude. Fuck off, troll. And if you're not a troll, I do apologize. Lots of love.
You know, I'd like to, if that troll should still be here, I'd like to say that I found you extremely disappointing as a human being. I'm not impressed whatsoever.
As soon as I said it, I actually think I do recognize the name and they've been here before. But no, unless I know you, I apologize. Reach out. I'm not dealing with that again tonight.
You just bring down other people's impression of what a human is. That's what you do.
And I thought that was my role, but these people have gone even further back.
They're trying to steal it from you.
You're the scummy person here, man. You know, you're the scummy, annoying, really trolly. You know, that's your job, Heretic. You know, that's
exactly. But I do enjoy speaking to Richard because he's bloody interesting. Yeah. Instead of just being the same old of everybody else, he's actually got something else to offer. I don't agree with it, but I love talking to him.
That I don't give a shit that you know, people make fun of me, and I know there's particular people in the chat who have made fun of me and said things like this, that, you know, oh, poor Robbie, his highlight of his fucking week is talking to Richard about religion. Yeah.
Am I the only
my
Christian?
Week is talking to Richard. That's it. Motherfucker's a brother to me. Motherfucker has pulled me out of holes.
Genesis,
I'm
you're the only
work.
Christian here if you are willing to commit the no true Scotsman fallacy. Because I am a student of the Bible, I am a follower of Yod He Vav He, and a student and follower of Jesus Christ.
Well, I guess I could qualify in that respect because I don't really call myself a Christian. It's just a term. I'm a follower of Jesus.
Okay.
Actually, the word Christian didn't come around until maybe around the 2nd century or something.
Fair enough.
Well, English
Okay,
didn't
so-
come around until like the 900s or something. So
There you have it. So, MathPig asked me for you, Tapioca, to tell the next implausible part, and I would. It goes like this. Traveling probably at about its present speed or slightly elevated. Mercury gets pulled into the gravitational field of Jupiter. That part's easy to explain. If it was in the neighborhood, heading about the right way. Instead of hitting the planet, though, there's a moon in the way. The moon that it collides with is the moon Europa. For the audience, and you may know some things about it. It's a dusting of iron, but it's mostly H2O. It is in a semi-solid to solid state at the exterior. I saw water jets. On the exterior of Europa, it has a silverish color, and on the outside, it looks like there's a little some rust streaks on it, essentially. I'm claiming that in the story, it is the quote-unquote sword, the very large sword of Goliath. Although how large it is an extrapolation from Christianity. It's not mentioned in the story how large. You just assume big guy, big sword. Okay. And those two colliding together, because there is, again, yet unproven, an energetic differential between inner and outer solar system. That is required here. That there is a huge energy release between, and in fact, if I understand science, and I don't understand it well, but I understand that the higher charge will discharge toward the lower charge. That's correct, yeah?
normally it doesn't really matter which way it goes. Technically, though, the negative charge is the one that moves, because negative is the electrons and they're smaller. So
Okay,
it would
so
normally be the other way around, I think.
Okay.
But in those scales, protons are also going all over the place. So that's a little bit less true, actually. In space, it's kind of just a mishmash of positive going this way, negative going this way. And
Okay.
you just slap a plus or minus sign on it after the math is done.
Okay. So after the math is done, I'm not going to be able to do the math on this. So electrolysis of the 5/3 as much water as the Earth happens, causing some fairly decent amount of it to split into its base atoms, providing hydrogen and oxygen for the next step. You follow so far?
Yep.
Okay. This is so flippin' specific. Anyway.
Yeah, there's also, I don't know how the hell that would happen. That would be really weird. So,
yeah.
But moving on.
It would take huge energy transfer, like ridiculous amounts of energy.
Of a very specific type.
Right.
You can't just pump energy into a system and then get the result that requires that much energy you want out. You got to do it right, you know? Like,
right.
You can't throw a grenade in the trunk of your in like the trunk of your car, for example, and expect that to like get you to work.
Right. Yes. Yeah, so you see what I'm saying. It's crazy specific, actually. Okay. And those interact with the moon Io. That is, David uses the sword of the giant to cut off his head, which is wearing a big brass helmet.
Okay.
Follow?
Is Io the brass helmet?
Yes, Io is the brass armament, including the helmet. Yeah.
Okay, that one doesn't really make much sense to me.
Because for why?
Well, Io is one of the more remarkably notable moons in the solar system, possibly the most notable moon. In what way is it because he's the things come out of a helmet words and
No.
or a head or something? Like
No, just
like where is the crazy volcanism getting into this?
that comes into play later, but right now it's just the overall brassy look of it.
I don't know that it looks brassy though.
Okay.
Let me pull it up. I might. Well, okay, it's a lot more brassy than I recall, so I will. There is a quite yeah. I see where you're coming from on it, but
I mean, you wouldn't call it gold colored, would you?
no, I'd call it a mottled yellow.
Yeah.
But mostly not brass. It's yellowish and it's less gray than I remember it. Like there's a lot more of the yellow tone in there than I was
But
like.
but
remember.
of the 4 Galilean moons, if I had to say one looked like it was made of brass, it would be Io.
That's probably fair. I don't know what the other ones look like. Well, okay, I know what Europa looks like, but
well,
Ganymede,
Callisto looks like a pig iron. It looks like a rusted ancient pot. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. Okay.
And
yeah.
then
No, I'm
Ganymede,
pulling them up. Ganymede according to this one, Ganymede just looks like the damn moon.
It sort of does. Except it has some pretty prominent mountains on Ganymede, though. That's
yeah.
okay. All right.
Evening.
There's an peace and respect, godless girl. And there's an interaction there where all that soup gets mixed up. The 90% yellow sulfur, the iron contents, the oxygen, the hydrogen, more electrical transfers, the heat that is already in Io, the volcanicity. How do you say that? Anyway.
Volcanicity, I think. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, I think
Volcanism?
so, that's it. That's what I was looking for. Volcanism. Of Io. And all that gets mixed together, and all of it gets shattered. And now you've got, to quote a musician who died in an airplane crash, great balls of fire.
Goodness gracious.
This spray of crap, right? Which is hot. It now has a sufficient oxygen source. It just got a huge electrical transfer and energetic transfer, and it's all getting sucked in by and it's a spray. So it gets sucked into the outer atmosphere of Jupiter. More specificity. If there were sufficient enough, spread enough, simultaneous enough ignition to the outside of Jupiter, which is, I can't remember all the gases, it's prominently hydrogen, some 20-ish% ammonia, anyway, nasty flammable crap. And it seems like there's nothing there that would be like a flame retardant gas. So the idea is like
almost any gas that's isn't its own oxidizer, like is gonna. You need an oxidizer and then a thing to burn. You know.
Yes.
Real person,
the general,
put your dick away.
So the way I picture it in my head, which I want to inform you, this was not part of the short film. It was not.
Was the short film the thing that you saw? That's the communication of all this. Okay.
Yeah. The short film didn't last this long. It didn't go into this kind of depth. It just transformed the planets and went full stop. Now you have to follow the story.
Okay.
The way that I fashion it in my mind, because the story does say that David cuts off the head of Goliath, and the army of Philistine, or outer asteroid belt of the asteroid belts, that is not to be confused with the Kuiper belt, with the whatever cloud thing, all the rest of that, but just the asteroid belts. that the army of Israel runs away. The army of Philistines run away. The army of Israel chases. That's impact between all these rocky bodies. That there is at first some kind of pressure going inward, and then a sudden expansion, and that sudden expansion throws crap in every direction. Even going so far as to say that David takes most of the armor. My headphones are talking to me. That means that you guys can hear me right now, and I can't hear you. Let me switch sets.
Oh,
My battery's dying. This is the thing with wireless.
To be fair, we've
sorry.
just been listening, so you're not missing much.
You guys hear me okay, and I can hear you?
Yep. Can you hear us? Testing.
Okay.
Testing.
Can I get a thumbs up if you can hear me?
I can hear you.
They're on. There we go.
Okay.
I like the other
can you hear me?
headphones better, but
If I can just say thank you to Phony for joining, and thank you for GG joining. Phony, I do recognize your name. Just after everything that happened, it was a weird name that I don't recognize that much. So it was all fucking troll. Oh yeah, you're not a troll. Yeah. So.
Oh, that's a second belt. But it's all right. I get better say to sorry after you got Paul bombed. Trust me, I get it.
I appreciate that. And GG, thank you very much for DMing me as well and asking.
was that my headphones or his connection? Oh, great. Now nothing works.
That would depend on what your headphones are doing to you, Richard.
I think I heard a...
Can you hear us?
You hear us? Talking?
Yes. Talking, yes.
Always live by the Star Trek rule of redundancy. 2 redundancies. Always have 2 backups, Richard.
Always have 2 backups.
Yeah, Star Trek rule of redundancy.
I'm wearing my backups.
You should have another pair in case they die. You should put the other one on the charge now.
The other one's on the charge. The other one's on the charger, Captain.
Is that also known as volcanism?
No, that was I got that's vulcanization. That's a different thing. So GG, the topic of tonight's conversation, seeing as we have, and I don't want to just like suddenly attack you, but the whole idea of tonight is how religion can take over people's lives, and Richard's the only zealot that we know. I don't know if you would describe yourself as a zealot. I know you're saying atheist and stuff like this, but your opinion on where you go forward and stuff, this has taken over your life, not Christianity, but what you do. You're very predominant and strong about how you put forth your ideas. How did you get to that point?
I don't know. That's just my personality. Like, wait, get to what point? The point where I'm what?
You spend an awful lot of time online having these discussions and take them very, very serious. Would you consider that a fair statement?
I don't know if I take them seriously. Sometimes I do.
Okay, sometimes you take it seriously.
Sometimes I'm just like trolling and stuff, you know. So no, I'm not always serious.
Would you agree that reputation that you have in the community is for going full throttle, very serious, and you know, you have a reputation? And I'm going off that because we personally don't know each other.
Serious though, for being
Pardon?
like aggressive. For being aggressive, I do.
How did you get to this point? Do you find it enjoyable? Do you find the trolling more fun? Do you enjoy the actual conversations? Is the whole idea of God being there and God not being there important in your life, or is the discussion on the philosophy more important in your life? What is your religion? As we pointed out with Nancy was making references to Richard's religion, thought it was Christianity. It's just religion. It's just something that's a chunk of your life and takes over. You know, how have you got to this where it's this?
No, I'm genuinely interested in it. I mean, I'm more interested in other philosophy. I guess like my interest started with religion and atheism, but then I learned more philosophy from there. But like the point I'm at now is I've been debating that stuff so long online is that like I don't take a lot of it seriously anymore. It's just like a lot of trolling and stuff, and I argue with a lot of fellow atheists because I'm just sick of arguing with Christians all the time. Although I did hear a Christian in here, and I want to ask her why she believes in God.
Oh,
That
you must be
that's
talking to me.
right in with a knife a wee bit, but I don't know, Nancy. If you're willing to answer that, I will let you answer that.
Well, I could give you a brief testimony. I was 30 years old when I was
I
converted.
don't really want a testimony. I just want some evidence.
Yeah, you see,
Why I
no, no,
believe
no.
in God?
If I can just jump in, you want something to convince you is what you're asking. You want evidence, as in, can you provide me something to convince me of what God exists? But what you asked is why she believes in God. So Nancy's going to give you the reason to why she believes in God, which may be a personal testimony. Personal testimonies are definitely acceptable from a personal point of view.
Okay, well, can
Well,
I make a different question then? Because I
Okay.
don't really want to hear like some I don't know. Do you think you have a rational reason for believing in God or God?
The fuck?
well, I mean, I hope I can answer your question positively, but yeah, I have a conversion testimony or whatever. I mean, it was like I was raised to, in church, and I hated it. I had an allergy to God, put it that way. I hated every bit of it. I would try to find ways to get out of going. And my mother raised me in a Seventh Day Adventist type of religion, where we went to church on Saturdays and we kept all the holy days and feast days. And I was about 30 years old, and my husband and I, he was a fighter pilot, and we went and moved to Puerto Rico. And we bought a sailboat, and we got stranded at sea for about 2 weeks, nearly lost our lives. And I guess I realized I didn't have a Bible on board. That really didn't affect me too much, but we survived the whole event. And when we got to Puerto Rico eventually, I decided that our boat was shipwrecked in the Bahamas, but we finally got it back. We weren't on board the boat when it happened, but we finally got it to Puerto Rico. And we were having it fixed down in the boatyard in Puerto Rico. And a group of born again Christians were it was Easter Sunday. Born again Christians were having a baptism, and they asked my husband and I, would you like to be baptized? And I guess the way I looked at it, I'd been baptized before, but it wasn't like my idea. I didn't really care. It's like, didn't acknowledge it really. So after that situation, we were baptized. And I guess it took, because before that time, I never had any desire or interest in really reading the Bible. It was just, I knew it because I'd been in church all my life, but it had no meaning or purpose to me. It was a difficult thing to read. I started on a subject and I couldn't get off of it. And it was like, my whole spirit changed inside of me. I mean, I could not put the Bible down. I could not stop researching. And I'm still that way today. I mean, now I'm off on another tangent, researching the history of Paul, the early church fathers. But it's like a fire that burns inside of me that is all consuming. And I have not stopped, and I don't ever plan on stopping. And I understand things that people don't understand. And I guess, the Holy Spirit has an effect on you. And until you can experience it yourself, you won't ever be able to see why,
If I can, Kat, right? You've just said to me what I wanted to hear from Richard at the very start of this entire stream. You experienced something that you couldn't describe. You had that emotional thing, that conversation we had about waking up beside your lover, that feeling of just happiness and joy and shit like that. And when I asked Richard this question, he came forth with, had a thing, spent 20 minutes looking on the internet. It was good. He came across as very convinced by information, where you actually had some sort of a thing, an experience, and from there, and then you went, and it was instantaneous. Right? Not to give any dismissive nature to Richard's validation, but I feel that your conversion was quicker than Richard's, even though he says his took 20 minutes and you say you're still learning. Your description of it and how it was an instant feeling, like an emotional response, seems more poignant and aligned with what I was expecting from from Richard?
I can't say it 100%. It was like instantaneous. It was like something that just came over me. My life changed from within. My mind changed. I don't know. But it's not like, oh gosh, I was falling over backwards and feeling joy. No, I mean, I've gone through hell, as a Christian. I mean, I've had so many experiences in my life, but God has gotten me through it. And the last miracle I had was when my husband passed away up in Pennsylvania. He moved me back down to Mobile in Alabama back in July. And it was like there were so many hurdles I had to overcome and get through to come down here. And it's like I didn't know where I was going to go, what was going to happen, how all this was going to work out. And one thing at a time. I mean, every detail, right down to the gnat's ass, was answered in prayer. I mean, it's like every little thing. I mean, the house that I'm in and the place that I'm living in. And in fact, my son bought a piece of property for me to move into on 5 acres of land and a little mobile home that had been, pretty much ditched or gutted on the inside. And they had redone all the walls and the windows and the electrical and the plumbing and everything like that. It looks like hell on the outside, but they put in all new flooring. So one of the things I get to do now too is I get to redo the interior of it on my own, which is something I've always wanted to do. And I guess I'm going to start this week with putting in tile flooring in 3 of the rooms that aren't finished off yet. And that's going to be fun. So anyhow, I mean, it's like when you have total faith in God and you let that happen in your life, you can move mountains if you want to.
Now, do you believe, right? This is what I wanted to ask Richard. I'm hoping to be able to ask you now. This direction my thoughts was thinking earlier. You have just described giving everything up to God, and it's given you the ability and the strength and all of this sort of thing that, to move forward and go through these things and be a better person. What I find in a lot of conversations, I'm not necessarily saying you, just using this as an example, is the ability to remove guilt. If I fuck up and it's not on me and I have the ability to blame someone else, I can feel better about myself. So that removing responsibility, removing guilt, being able to make mistakes and then, passing it on to someone else, so to speak. And you're doing it for the other person. I feel that a lot of Christians are better people than what they give themselves credit for in the UK. Not fundamentalists in America. But you made a decision. You found it in yourself, Carl. You had an experience that made you want to be a better person. And you're giving all that to someone else. And the only advantage I can see in that is when you fuck up, you can pass the buck, so to speak. It's okay. I've been saved. I'm having trouble. Plus, I'm also very, very, very high right now. I'm smoking a lot and we've been streaming for a while and I'm rambling. But somebody help me here. Mr. Tapioca, do you see my point I'm trying to make?
I think I see your point.
You're nodding when I'm talking, so help.
Well, I mean, part of that is a little bit of a reflex thing. It's terrible, Plus, I had to go find my phone.
Yeah, we're all pretty high.
You're always full of shit, MathPig.
Did you used to have another channel?
No, I've been MathPig as of. Pardon, Nancy?
I didn't hear who she was talking to.
I was asking MathPig a question, but
Oh, okay.
lady, all I heard was that you got baptized and you felt like you had some feeling that God existed, and then your life changed. But that's all you have as a feeling?
You described it as this time it took, referring to your baptism, which I found interesting. Yeah.
Well, yeah, the other one I blew off. It was my girlfriend, her boyfriend's mother had a little baptismal thing at her house, like a celebration. And she's like, well, what do you want? Have you not been baptized? Just come over here. The pastor's going to be here. But I wasn't convicted because, number one, I didn't agree with the theology that they taught, and I just didn't. And then they sprinkled me, and I just really was just there to be pleasing people, I guess, and I didn't really take it seriously. But the second time around, I took it seriously. But the only thing I thought in my mind was, it's time. It's time. That's the only thing I can say, is it was time.
That's
You know,
that's the thing I was going to ask you. When you were going through it the first time, you made a statement that you disagreed or had problems with or whatever, their dogma, their this or whatever. Did the second one, was it more open and more aligning with what you felt, and you just made the decision to be a better person? And you sort of answered my question just before I asked it, but that's the point I'm making. It falls on you, Nancy. You made the decision to let it take. You made the decision to make these better choices and be a better person in your life.
I don't know if that better person had anything to do with it. I mean, I wasn't just completely, no, I don't know. I felt it was time. I needed to do this. And it wasn't they were born again Christians, just, a bunch of them, no church congregation or anything, just independent.
They were the congregation.
Well, they were fundamental, and I just said, hey, I was baptized off the side of a boatyard off the side of Puerto Rico there in the Caribbean. And it was, I mean,
my mother still has my christening dress, right? And yes, in the 80s, boys used to, it's a big long, it's like fucking 4 foot long, and I was a baby of about 2. It's white, my ma still has it in the wardrobe, dunked in the water at the top of the church. It's still there. It's poignant, though. It's part of my life.
My daughter was baptized. My husband at the time, he was Lutheran, Missouri Synod Lutheran or whatever, and his sister wanted my little baby at the time, daughter, to be baptized, and she was baptized in the Lutheran church in Colorado somewhere. And I didn't want it to be. I wasn't in agreement, but is it going to hurt her? No. But she's got a real allergy to God. So I don't, it's a personal decision. Somewhere in your spirit, something changes.
So here's the thing. I mean, the way that I'm listening to you, it sounds like you were searching. You were searching for something, and then something happened, which was your boat. You were stuck at sea for 2 weeks, and you nearly died, and you got shipwrecked. What if you had landed after your shipwreck, say in Palestine, and you could have been either taken in by a bunch of Muslims or by a bunch of Jews, and they had offered to do whatever. I don't think they do baptism. They'll do whatever. Would you have joined their religion as opposed to the one you already knew?
I didn't join any religion when I was baptized. I just became baptized and believed in God. That's all.
That's another thing I wanted to say. You described yourself earlier as not a Christian, but a follower of Jesus. You're now saying that this is the time that you made the choice, but you didn't then follow them. It's just that experience that caused the change in you. More, in my opinion, from what I'm hearing, it's that experience that caused the change in you. And to not be dismissive, but to open it up to the panel. Everybody has experienced something that has been a poignant part in their life where they've took a chunk. We spent Saturday night last week, me and Mr. Weasel, talking about mental health and stuff. I've downloaded a new book over the last week called Your Head is a Houseboat, on a recommendation, and I've been reading that. I'm only a wee bit in, but I've been trying to. But having points in your life that give you reflection and make you change for the better, in your own personal opinion, happen to a lot of people, but a lot of people give that up to God because they can't explain it,
Well, it just sounds like she felt like God exists, so then she believed it or something. I don't know. But
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I'm given the response. I think Nancy sorry to talk to you as if you're not here, Nancy, but to talk directly to you, I think you should take responsibility for the good things that you've done in your life since that because of you, and not give that up to a Holy Spirit or a God that's just went, boop, there you go, now you're the good person. You've made the effort. You changed. You didn't just suddenly wake up and start feeding the poor. You made small steps in your life to get to where you are now. You made small decisions which progressively came to help and be the better person that you are now. And I think that you've got the credit for that. You deserve the credit for that, not something we can't prove.
I don't consider myself a better person because of it all. I mean, I don't look at it that way.
Christians
I
won't
give-
allow you. You have to be
So she said,
persecuted.
like, God answered. I have a comment. She said God, like, answered her prayers and gave her a house. I think it's pretty arrogant to think that, like, the creator of the universe, like, intervened with the laws of physics and, like, changed things so that you could have a house while he ignores the prayers of, like, the dying children in Africa.
I know a
I don't
guy
know how
who's
to
a
respond
prosperity
to that.
gospel. He asked his congregation, he had a problem with his house and was like, I am stuck and all the rest of it. And some guy gave them £2,000 to buy a new car. And okay, that particular person in the congregation is probably well off and can afford to do that and is as blinded, in my opinion, as the rest of it. It doesn't make the prosperity gospel real. We all help each other out in this community. We all, do a whip round if someone's stuck. We give what we can afford to give. It doesn't mean.
Yeah, lady, why do you think that God gave you the house and it just wouldn't? You think it wouldn't have happened anyway if you hadn't prayed for it?
There were a lot of things that led up to it, and a lot of it's very private and personal. I can't really talk about it.
Well, it's just a yes or no question. You said God gave it to you, so would you still have the house if you didn't pray for it?
I think what Nancy's trying to say is the personal experiences that they went through that are very personal confirmed what they asked for, and they're uncomfortable describing, what they'd went through. Like Mr. Tapioca doesn't want. Go ahead. No, I was going to make a joke.
The situation that happened, I mean, it's like, well, I can't get into the details and the reasoning behind it because it's just something I don't want to share. But I had not even begun to really search for a house. I opened up my computer one day, my laptop, and I'm sitting there thinking, I want this and I want that, and this is what I would prefer, and this is where I want to move to. And within a month, there was no way I could afford to buy a home. There was no way I was going to get it. And my son had been working up in Pennsylvania. He had to come back down to Alabama. And I said, would you look at this piece of property for me? I said, this is perfect for me. Next thing I knew, he was buying it for me, paid cash for it. I'm like, what? And somebody else.
And you think he did that because, like, God influenced him?
Well, I don't know. You have to. Yeah, I believe
you wanted
that.
a house, and, like, God knew that, so God influenced your son to buy one for you?
Well, it was a combination of a lot of things. We could make this into a 3-hour discussion, but it's like, 5 minutes or something. It's like, I knew that I knew. Sometimes that something's going to happen, but you don't know how it's going to happen. And it was by one way or another over a period of time. It wasn't me making the decisions for it. His father stepped in also and, said, well, if you don't buy it, I'm going to buy it because it was such a good deal. And he put some money into it, about $7,000. And then he put a well in there for me too. Everything that I needed was provided for me. It was like the red carpet went out. And even when I got here, the first thing I did was total my car on a deer. And that was taken care of too. It's one thing after another that just, kept going on. It's like,
lady,
now I'm
good
here.
things and bad things happen to people every day all around the world.
I'm not bragging. Let me get this
I'm not
straight.
saying you're bragging, but I'm saying that's not evidence that a God exists, because bad things happen and then good things happen that that happens whether or not you believe in God to everyone.
Well, bad things happen to me too. I mean, it's like, yeah, I broke my ankle.
Yeah, so how is that evidence for God?
There is no evidence. It's my stupidity, I suppose, or it just happened. You know, it's like, did God make me hit the deer? No, I don't know. I mean, it's just a combination of things. But I do have faith in God, and I have strong faith. And if it means me being beheaded because of my belief, that'll be what's going to be happening to me.
I have no idea what you're talking about now. So
Oh,
you're
no,
saying
she's being very
it is
specific.
evidence or it's not evidence?
No. Your very first question was, why do you believe in God? And your second was, do you have a rational explanation? She said no, and then explained her explanation. And now you're saying,
Oh, I thought
that's
she
not
said
evidence.
yes.
Well, she agreed that it wasn't evidence. She said it was a personal testimony.
I'm sorry. I thought that she had said yes. She has a rational reason.
From her point of view.
Yeah, that's a whole debate.
Which she doesn't want to get into, just like Mr. Tabioker's, sexual awakening and his 6-foot black dildo. He doesn't want to talk about that.
It was traumatic.
Mr. Phony has been very quiet down in the corner. I'd like to hear their opinion on what has been happening.
That's fine. I mean, I'm just waiting. I'm listening to Godless. And sorry, I didn't quite catch your name. The lady above me. Sorry, I didn't quite catch your name. Sorry.
I have a quick question. Is Phony B the same as Phony Beatlemaniacs? Is that you?
That is me, yes.
Oh my God, I've been a fan of yours for years. Hi, how you doing?
All right, how you doing? Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm a Christian myself. I'm a Quaker. My conversion wasn't the same as. Sorry. What's your name? Sorry, I'm sorry. I didn't quite catch it. Sorry. Is it Carol? Did you say your name is? Sorry.
Nancy.
Nancy. Sorry. Yeah, but my conversion wasn't the same as Nancy's. Mine was a longer journey. It's still a journey. Because the thing is, for me.
Can you boost your gain ever so slightly?
What?
Make yourself louder, or do I have to tech?
You gotta fold down your mic if that's how it works.
I'm gonna try and turn it I'm gonna try and turn it towards me. Can you hear me better now? Hello.
It's about the same.
He was giving a thumbs up.
Yeah, don't tell him it's the same because he'll focus on it. Just give him the thumbs up, or we can move on. Thumbs up.
Okay. So the thing is, with me, it was more of a journey. It wasn't strictly because I was an atheist from like about 50, 40 to about 18. And then people started saying stuff that wasn't true. And when people start saying stuff that isn't true, I start investigating, because when people start saying stuff about me that was based upon quote science, bullshit basically. Saying that I couldn't go to university. Now, the thing is, one thing about me is that I'm a stubborn piece of shit. And it's one of my worst and best traits. And the thing is, I went to university despite people telling me I couldn't, because I've got dyspraxia, I've got loads of other mental health and other stuff that contributes to, me. And that kind of set me on a journey. And the last bastion of my atheism, if you want to say it, was in this meeting, because I went to a meeting because I like to have community with people. Sorry, it's all right, mate. Don't worry about it. Hey, I've had worse things done to me, trust me.
You went to a meeting.
Yeah. So the people there were nice. They were talking about LGBTQ. Now, this was before the whole gay people could get married. So they were talking about civil partnerships, that sort of thing, and that how it was wrong that people were still discriminating against gay people, even as things were progressing. And I thought, well, that's a very good and very solid point. But then, in the same breath, they said, well, how rubbish religious people are. I'm like going, dude, you were just saying a minute ago, it's wrong to be bigoted against people because of who they are, but you're being bigoted against people for what they believe. Do you not see the disconnects there, or how those are two contradictory points? They can't exist in one point. Either accept people as they are, or you don't. You can't just say to people, and that's what kind of set me on this journey I went to, because again, I was just an agnostic then. I was just like, you know what, fuck these guys. Excuse me French. But, some of these guys, I don't like being around bigots at the best of times. I hate being around, because I think it's because I myself grew up with Muslim people in my community and stuff like that. And it kind of like, my mind started to alter. I started to read books, I read like Nietzsche, Kant, stuff like that. And I started to understand that I was looking for what I thought was the truth. I started to look through these books. Now I looked through the Bhagavad Gita, looked through the Quran, looked through the Torah, looked through the Bible again. And I didn't just look through. I looked through and I read a lot of the history of this stuff. The scholarship from both religious people and non-religious people, and tried to figure out who the cooks were on both sides and tried to know them. It took a long time to discern that, and as I said, for me, the evidence seems to show that A, Jesus was a real person. B, he said some of the things that he's attributed to have said. Now, we could argue about whether he did miracles or not. That's a theological point. And to me, that the universe as it is was created by God because of stuff like string theory, and that there is a creative point that started it all, especially look at stuff like Michio Kaku's work and stuff like that. So I started becoming interested in that sort of sense. Now, I'm not saying that my journey is fulfilled, because I went from being no religion to being a universalist, Unitarian Universalist. And to be honest with you, their services weren't really religious in the traditional sense. A lot of it was like poetry, kind of like a philosophy, sometimes from even atheists, like people like Sam Harris or Umberto Eco and stuff like that was brought in. Their ideas of moralism and stuff like that. As I said, the thing that really grabbed me and really got hold of me was I started to look at Quakerism, because they being behind the abolition of slavery, they being about getting the disavowing of certain prison laws and reforming prisons, like, for example, Elizabeth Fry, people like that. So I thought, this is a religion that I can get to. It also is pro-LGBTQ, which I am myself. And I started being interested that way, that I could be a force for good in the world. And I thought Jesus is the way to do it. Now, again, if somebody isn't a Christian and feels that atheism is the right way to do it, cool. As long as you're with me on certain things, then we can disagree about the religion part, but bring in anything else. So I'm sure that even if you're atheist, you agree with me that people shouldn't be hungry, that people should be entitled to healthcare, that people should be have a house and affordable bills, that they should have a well-remunerated job. All these things that I think that most atheists, I think, would agree with me on. We just would disagree about the God part. There you go. There we go. Silence.
So, within all of that, where does the evidence for belief in God arise? Was it the string? Was it the string theory?
I looked into string theory and I thought it was more likely than not. If we're gonna throw probability into the thing, it's more probable than not. There you go. If we're gonna put probability into it. Because it's ever 100% or 0%. There's always chance does, unless we know absolutely certain on both ways.
Because everything else I felt was about feelings. It was about you. It was about your character, your personality, how you wanted to see the world, which is absolutely fine. I've got no problem with any of that. But none of that requires anything at all to do with whether you're religious or atheist or whatever, which I think you actually said.
No,
the question is, I mean, you decided on Quakerism for some feelings that you had, that Quakerism more molded with you, as opposed to molded with what God actually is. Because I don't know what God actually is, but I mean, God could actually be somebody that doesn't bloody like humans whatsoever. I've no idea. I don't know. But I completely split up the idea of whether God exists versus the concepts that humans put on human life and how humans think a good life should be. And I see them as two totally different things, because God might exist in that realm or it might not exist in that realm. And even if the God does exist, that God might not have the same ideas about humans that the humans who are saying they want human rights and all these other things, and about being nice to each other and LGBTQ and being respectful. That's what humans want. And so that's the difference that I see, that I haven't really seen that you've really connected together there at all.
Because I differentiate it in my head. Because the religion I follow is for moral reasons, but believing in God has no bearing on whether I follow a religion or not. That's a different basis on the reality of the world, or the universe, or whatever we want to call it, on being, basically, that God is a being that created the universe. Whether that being has certain wants and wishes that he wants us to carry out, I'm not going to stand here and say I know either way. But I can devoid God of it and say that I follow Jesus' teachings, because to me that's a better way to be a more moral person in the world. Okay, because again, there are atheists out there who are Christian. For example, if you go backwards in history, if you look at, for example, Marcionites, they're Christians. Or if you want something more modern, esoterics are Christians. Even Universalists, some of them are Christians, are bringing Jesus' teachings into their lessons that they use. So again, you can differentiate the two. That's what I'm saying. I'm using two different things. I'm using my ideas of God are different from my ideas of the religion I follow, because one doesn't necessarily dictate the other. Because you can be atheist and be religious. You can be religious. You can believe in God and not be religious.
Well, I don't think you can be atheist and be religious, but that's a different question. But I think I see what you're saying. In following God, you wish to be alongside a community that holds to the same values that you do while you worship God.
No, God has nothing to do with it, because again, if I devoid God for the question, I will be a more moral person. I will want something that helps me do that. Again, I don't just use the Christianity to do that. I also use other secular sources.
I'm confused by what you mean by religion. Then, really confused.
What do you mean? Sorry, what do you mean? What is confusing about that? If I'm using it as a source for enriching my personal outlook on life, the same as if, let's for example, I use, for example, Umberto Eco's look at moralism for enriching my life. What's the difference? They're both written about a person and their moral outlook on life. I can derive wisdom from them, should I say?
But let's take the religion of the Bible and all of the various thousands of interpretations and denominations of it, and each of them can call themselves a religion if they wish. Then each of them has a central point, which is about belief in God and worshiping God.
Not all of them.
All of those in Christianity do.
No.
Do they not?
No.
Okay.
I just need you to that don't. If you want to read a book about it, I can recommend a book. There's actually a book called Inner Christianity, which is about Christian esotericism, which is an atheist form of Christianity.
An atheist form of Christianity?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, I can understand somebody might have written something about it. I'm not sure I follow your argument about Marcionites, because Marcionites were Christians, as were the original Christians, of which there were many Christianities, because they believed in Jesus. And in believing in Jesus, they believed in divinity and they believed in God.
No,
there's always a connection to God that's there.
No, because what Marcionites believed is that God was another word for nature. The way that they used it.
No, the Marcionites did not believe that. That's pantheists.
No, that's Spinoza. They used it in Spinozian way.
The Marcionites believed that Yahweh was a cruel, nasty, wrathful God, and Jesus was the good God that was going to take over. That's what dualism was. That's what Marcionism was. It took together all of the Pauline epistles and a chunk of Luke and Acts, the bits that they liked, in order to produce their ideas of dualism, which was still about Jesus and God.
He's correct about that. I've been
What was it
studying
called?
on
What?
Marcionism.
Well, no, who wrote? There wasn't there a text or something called like the Didache or something?
Yes, there was.
Who
But
wrote that?
I think it was. I've been studying that this last week or so. I was just listening to a lecture on it, and basically it had to do with the teachings of the 12 apostles, but over a period of years in time, like 900 years or more, it's evolved and changed and evolved and changed. So now what you get is not what it probably started out to be.
Yeah, and as I said, Unitarianism in its teachings can bring from different religious texts as well as secular texts to try and form a moral basis upon that. As somebody who attended Unitarian churches, I can tell you several atheists who do. I'm not sure if minister is the right term, but I'm going to use the word minister because that's what they are. They minister at these particular services.
A Unitarianist believes in one God. They don't believe in the Trinity. They still believe in a God. A creator. No. That's what Unitarianism is. And as such, Unitarianists cannot be atheists. Atheists do not believe. Atheists do not believe in God. That atheists do not believe in God.
Right.
That is the definition of atheism.
All right, but
now, if you're redefining atheism, then please let me know.
Right, I'm telling you that there are atheist pastors of Unitarian churches. This is not a theory. This is reality. You can disagree with it all you want. It's part of reality.
We know that there are atheist pastors of Trinitarian churches, and they daren't actually come out as atheists, and that's why there is a whole lot.
This guy has come out. So, what's your point?
You've got an atheist pastor
of a Unitarian church who is out atheist. I mean, you could. I mean, if you want to talk.
Okay. I mean, no, that's fine because you can be a pastor, but he doesn't believe. He doesn't believe.
Give me 2 seconds.
He doesn't believe. He doesn't believe. That's why he calls himself an atheist. Otherwise, he has redefined atheism up to his own definition, which is absolutely fine. You can do that. But of course, the original atheists were the Christians because the Romans called them the atheists because they didn't believe in the pagan gods. I don't know what you're meaning by atheism. Atheism is now seen as a global view of not believing in any gods, any supernatural beings. That's what atheism is.
Right, and that's what he is. But he's a minister. So he's a minister at a church.
What's Trinitarianism then?
Trinitarian.
Go on.
Right. Trinitarianism is the belief in the 3 parts of God on the earth. It is a particular Byzantine teaching. That clear enough for you?
No, that's a totally different definition that I'm aware of. Unitarianism, in the definition that I'm aware of, is belief in the one God, not in the Trinity. In other words, Jesus was not God. Jesus may well have been brought up into the realms of divinity, but is not God. God is the Father only, just like Yahweh is. It's exactly the same as Judaism.
Right.
Yahweh is the one and only. Right. That's to me what Unitarianism is.
Right.
So this sounds like a very strange religion.
No, this is just, again, if you want to talk to the guy, feel free, fill your boots. I'll try and find his Twitter handle and give it to you, and then you can talk to him to your heart's intent and find out what he actually believes. Because again, I talked to him and I know what he believes.
What does he believe?
Well, He's a atheist bastard. Let's have a look at him.
So what does he believe? I mean, you said you'd spoken to him. What does he believe?
Well, he believes that Bible is a source of wisdom, but does not contain any truth in regards to a divinity source. So he gains some ancient wisdom, but he also believes that about framing Constitutions and the art of war and stuff like that, and
I've got no problem with that. I've got no problem with that, but it's not a religion. That's basically moralistic statements. That's like saying Aesop came up with some really good stories, and you can live your life by the morals and the types of implications of what Aesop said and wrote down.
Yeah,
and you can do that with the Bible. Yes, an atheist can do that with the Bible. Absolutely. There's a lot of stuff written in there which has good aspects to it, really good aspects to it. You would get rid of the first, second, and probably the third commandment because you're not worshiping God, and there is no God to actually do it. But all the other stuff, love thy neighbor, blah, 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 that's like, they're universal moralistic stances that any human could take forward. But it's not a religion because there's no God there.
You'd have to talk to them about it. Again, you're asking me to defend a position I don't hold, and I don't feel comfortable doing that.
Fair enough.
Because it'd be like me asking you to defend a position you don't hold. I mean, I can only defend a position which is I hold, which is Quakerism. But again,
you're accepting there are atheists who are religious, and you argued that there are, and that's the bit that I have an issue with.
Because again, atheist just means you don't believe in God. It doesn't mean anything else apart from that.
But religion, by definition, means belief in God.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
There's certain Buddhists that threw against the divine aspect of Buddhism out the window. Okay. Despite it maybe not being mainstream, there's certain sects of Islam that do the same thing. They throw the idea of Allah being akin to a force in the world, like for example, just like just what moves the world forward, basically. What causes the natural order of things. That's basically what they consider Allah to be in certain Islamic sects. Again, they won't talk because people don't want to accept that these things exist, but they do.
Okay. I don't classify those as religions. They're more philosophies. They're more philosophies of life.
They follow the religious tenets, or do they do all these sacraments and stuff like that? I don't know.
Fair enough.
Again, so I mean, however, I think an atheist could be just as moral as a Christian. I think a Christian could be just as moral as an atheist. It depends on the person. There you go. That's my personal belief.
Yeah. And I don't link morals to religions or God whatsoever.
Right. That's
occultism is a religion also.
To a degree. But would you say that again, people could be moral, be Christian, people could be immoral, be Christian, people could be moral and be whatever position they want. Again, morality is dependent on the person, not necessarily dependent on the religion they follow, I would argue.
Exactly.
Right. But again, religion can make a good person bad and can make a bad person good. It depends on how they take it and what they do with it.
Yeah.
Okay. I think you agree with me there.
Totally.
Okay. So, yeah. But again, I think that most people find whatever position fits their own personal mold of what they think is true, because then you're trying to make yourself think something that you don't think is correct. Like if you say to me, "Be an atheist," again, I think a God exists, so it would be impractical.
So you're not an atheist?
No.
You're a theist?
Yeah.
Okay. So you believe in God,
Yes.
but you were an atheist.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still very confused as to how you came to that position. Was it the string theory bit that made you believe in God? Or was it the way people treated you in a certain environment, and because they were from a particular religious sect, you joined that sect and became a theist? I don't know. I'm not quite sure.
It was more my research into it. My own research. I'm not saying that it's right or whatever. I'm not saying, oh, I have this 100% right, because at the end of the day, I'm not that arrogant. But I did my own research and I've come to my conclusion. Doesn't mean I'm right. By the numbers in the world, it looks like I'm increasingly wrong and irrelevant.
No, I don't mind which it is. I mean, you've chosen a pretty Americanized sect, which is fine. Which is fine, because you said you'd looked at the Quran, you'd looked at the Bhagavad Gita, you'd looked at the Torah, you'd looked at the Christian Bible, you looked at all these things, you went around a few things, and you found a particular sect, the Quakers, that actually met your human feelings of how you think people should be. And that is the one you joined. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. To the most part, yeah. But also their historical impact in the world, in improving the world. If you joined any organization, wouldn't you go into its past to see what it did, to see its track record?
But you decided atheism was wrong because you spoke to a small group of people who you felt originally they sounded good, but then that small group of people turned out that they had some hypocrisy in there. So you decided, therefore, on that basis, atheism is wrong.
No.
And then you went searching for theism. You found theism, and then you were searching for the particular type of theistic religion that you wanted to join.
No, it's more complicated than that. It wasn't that I wanted to find a religion. I just wanted to find what I thought was true. Whether that was atheism or not is irrelevant.
So do you believe Quakerism is true?
Yeah. I think that's borne out by our history.
I don't know much about Quakerism. Are they similar to Mennonites as well as Amish?
It's a Reformed theology formed in Philadelphia. If you, because Pennsylvania is also, if you know anything about Pennsylvania, the guy with the funny hat, that's the guy who started our religion, William Penn. He's also the guy in the Quaker Oats package with a stupid hat. So,
I thought the guy with the funny hat was the Pope.
No. The Quaker, the brownish sort of pot pie hat. I don't know how.
Did they go back to the time of the Pilgrims?
Yes. Well, actually, no, because the Pilgrims were Calvinists, I think.
I think the Pilgrims were Anabaptist or whatever, because they came from England and Holland and came to the New World because they kept the Sabbath days and so forth.
Yeah, it's because I think it was people who were thinking, what's the word? There's a word for it. There's a word for it. Sorry. The guy who was the Lord Protector of Britain was one of them. Got brain not working today. Sorry, I'll fire up in a minute. I thought those were the most weird ones. There's a word for it. Yeah, whatever that group is. Sorry, brain not working today. Puritan. There you go. Sorry, they're Puritans. But if you knew what Puritan is from that area, it was Calvinists. Quakers were founded in, as I said, Pennsylvania. I did spread overseas the other way. Like, for example, William Wilberforce was a Quaker. I would say Elizabeth Fry was a Quaker as well. And so was Richard Nixon, but hey, we don't like to talk about that.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Tricky Dicky. Tricky Dicky was one of us as well.
Richard's going to be setting up an after party. We've been going for a wee while, and I'd be honest, I'm pretty high and stuff, and I'm losing trail of thought and shit like that. And I don't want to be disrespectful to the people who are talking, so we will move to Richard's channel where he can be more interactive and more respectful of that.
I'm probably going to go to bed. I've got stuff to do.
Yeah, it gives everybody an opportunity if they want to refresh and sort themselves, take a smoke and stuff like that. So if Richard, I do believe you're a mod in the channel. I don't know if you can schedule, book, and post in the live chat. I know it's a few things. But if you can schedule, I'll see it. Good man. Post that in the. Oh, Sammy's awake now.
420 blaze it.
420 anti-theist. Have you booked your fucking flight yet, man? We've ordered the t-shirts. The t-shirts just as a shout out, yes, and a roundup. For anyone who is within the area of St. Louis, Missouri. Yeah.
It's not, it's not in New Orleans like I thought.
On the weekend of New Year's Eve, the Friday and the Saturday night, New Year's Eve and New Year's Eve, we have organized not a convention, not anything like that, just a group of friends getting together, having pizza. There's a trip to the museum. It's Red's favorite museum in the whole world. There's t-shirts, there's food, all paid for, all accommodation, everything. There's one slot left for the main accommodation. Now, if people want to still come, 35 quid will get you a t-shirt and a ticket, and you can come to the party and stuff. It covers food and all that. It's only 35 quid if you can get and sort your own accommodation. But there's one slot left for the main accommodation in Pink Paradise. It's called Pink Paradise. It's like a 70s funk dream. It just looks great. It's happening. If people are up for it and you just want to come, contact me, contact Red, Savage Minnow, and we get that organized. We've got Maya, we've got me, we've got Red, we've got Richard, we've got Bree, we've got Beck. All going well. We've got Sammy. Sammy's going to do a day stay over in Thailand. Don't judge him, Nancy. Don't judge him. But yeah, it's going to be no fucking lectures, no bullshit. It's just going to be a group of friends hanging out, getting to know each other, grabbing each other's asses, giving each other hugs. It's going to be fucking brilliant. It really is going to be. It's going to be something that's. I will never forget this. No matter. Unless Richard actually stabs me, I don't think this can go wrong. Okay, Richard, I'm rambling. I'm now talking about you stabbing me. Have you linked it yet? There you go. 420, having a wee stay over in Thailand, get himself a blowy. Seriously, Richard, I'm running out of things here to say.
Well, I see a link.
In all seriousness, not to talk financial differences, but going from Australia to directly where we are with one flight is X amount of money. Going from Australia via Thailand, via LAX, and from LAX to where we're going, it's 4 stops, and it actually goes the wrong way around the world, right? You think you're in Thailand, you want to go to LAX, you go that way? No. The cheap ones go this way, right? It's a really long-ass flight, but it's X over 6.
Somebody's coming from Australia?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I've known Sammy longer than I've known Richard. That's 4 or 5 years. Never met. And yeah. So it's X over 6. So you can see, plus you get a stay in Thailand. So just lots of flights. So yes.
The StreamYard link was in the private chat more than 3 minutes ago. I got it into the public chat as well. But it's definitely there.
Well, I mean, now we're going to have to deal with all the Nazis.
I was saying about the YouTube link. But yeah.
YouTube, you want that? Okay, great.
Yeah,
Hold on.
people are. You're gonna have 24 people clicking the StreamYard link, going, you know.
Yeah, you got to be able to watch it.
Yeah, they need to watch it.
Just a minute.
Because I mean, let me tell you, I am way too much of a narcissist to give up my extremely prized spot on a panel. Okay, I just want to sit here, talk about myself, maybe rub my nipple a little bit. You know, all of
I
these
was gonna
reasons.
ask you if you wanted to have a chat because we've been in there and it was fun. You know, let's go DMs, man. You know, me and you.
Well, I mean, I could totally slide into your DMs among other things. Yeah.
It's now getting weird.
Well,
It's not
I
getting
mean,
fun.
You didn't think it was fun, Maya?
Well, I mean, you know, define fun.
Fun for me
I mean,
is
this
spending
isn't
time
like-
with fun for me. You
This
asked me.
isn't like
you asked me.
rubbing nipples,
Okay, be quiet.
slipping into MathPig's other things kind of fun, you know.
I didn't hear any of that because I was talking to answer the question you asked. Would you?
Well, you
repeat
gotta
what
shut the
said?
fuck up sometimes.
I didn't hear you that time because I was actually saying, I'm sorry, I'm going to be quiet while you just reiterate everything for the next 3 minutes.
No, it's just like, you know, co-signing the whole rubbing nipples and slipping into MathPig's other things.
Oh, you want in too? You looked well. That's all good. Yeah, come on in. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute.
You're trying to entice us. You're like, hey, I ain't no just icon.
Oh, yeah, I brought the girls with me and everything.
No, I'm not just an icon. I've got
You
the
ever leave
waistcoat.
without them?
The waistcoat's just there. I can put the waistcoat on if it, you know.
The waistcoat. Wait,
I
is
have a
that, like,
collection
Irish
of
for
waistcoats. Waistcoats are
something
my
sexy?
thing. I'm bringing my
What's a
fucking. I'm genuinely, right? No joke. Bringing my Louis Vuitton fucking blue suit with me to.
Oh, like a legit waistcoat. Okay.
Oh no, like a
Sure.
legit,
You know,
like a
whatever
legit
floats your
full
boat.
Louis Vuitton suit. Now, I didn't pay a brand new price for it. Will not ask where it came from. May have been a dead old man's.
I'm always into like new kinks. So yeah, Louis Vuitton waistcoat.
It's a beautiful blue, and the fabric feels so soft. And I've got a pink shirt and all that goes with it. Oh yeah. You should see See the outfit. It does say now, Maya. Okay. Now this is a stipulation. This also goes with Richard. Okay. On New Year's Eve night, it is fancy dress. Now, fancy dress is whatever you define as fancy dress. If Richard wants to come dressed as Chewbacca, fine. That's what Richard wants to come as. We actually did check the laws because somebody wanted to come in their birthday suit. In Missouri, you must be covered from the waist down. So you can come in a thong if that's what you define as your fancy dress. Me and Red are going 1920s.
Does that cover women as well? Just
Pardon?
waist down. Does that cover
In
women as
Missouri?
well?
It was
Oh,
a woman
waist
that
down.
asked it. It was a woman that asked it. Yes, it does.
What? I'm pretty
Right.
sure they're gonna make me bring my pasties.
Well, we're going for 1920s sort of look, but with a steampunk vampire thing going. The waistcoat that I've got is like a cross between a waistcoat and a shirt. It's got the collar but no sleeves and comes down. It's jet black with like a red shirt. Oh yeah. I'm gonna have to like get a cattle prod to keep all these ladies
vampire.
away from me.
So you're saying my pasty should have like tassels for when I.
Tassels work. Nipples, cover your nipples.
Okay,
You know.
okay, we're on the same page.
Yes,
Got it.
white
On
old
it.
men are afraid of nipples. Old white men
What
are
I
afraid of
recommend?
nipples.
You know those like novelty lights that have like a chunk of fiber optic and then it like splays out and then it's like bright at the ends. You need those. Those
Have
in
you
little
seen the
pasty
base
forms.
though? The base of them things are quite big because of the battery pack. She's gonna have to like. Where's she
Yeah,
gonna stuff?
but let me
Where's
tell
she
you,
gonna
okay,
hide
they
the
can-
battery pack? She's in
they
a
can
thong
do-
with this.
They
Where's she
can do
hiding the
heart
battery
valve
pack?
replacements. They can do heart valve replacements at the end of a little tube that they put in your groin and it goes up your heart and they can replace a valve from the inside out. It's literal life and death building a ship in a bottle, okay? So I think they can handle
New
some
Year's
nipple
Eve, Maya and Mr. Tapioca Weasel are getting together for some surgery.
As much as I dislike interrupting such intellectual conversations, I need to go to bed. So I'm going to say good night to everybody.
It is UK time.
Enjoy
Thank you very much, Hartik.
Enjoy yourselves over at Richard's, and I hope you don't get bombed.
No wild heart.
Yeah.
I'm going to say goodbye to
Enjoy.
MathPig. I've got to go and run over another deer and go to the store. So thank you for having me on.
Did you just say you have to go run over another deer?
Well, you know,
It's
ever
God's
since
will.
I hit
God's will.
Ever since I hit that deer and totaled my car, I never even saw the damn thing. It just, all of a sudden I saw something red with hair flying off in the distance. And I'm sitting there.
Yeah, no, they come out of nowhere. Like you never.
Yeah, I fucking
every time I
hate
hear
redheads.
that story, like you never see them.
Since then, it's only been like 2.5 months since this has happened. I've seen about 5 deer, and 3 of them crossed right smack in front of the road, right in front of me again. It's like I'm a deer magnet, you know. I'm freaking out. It's like
I had a small bump not too long ago. It was last year, whatever. And then whenever I was moving my car from the accident off the road, there was a wee girl that drove past. She just got her license. She didn't stop. There's a rack in the middle, she tried to get up around the corner and there was a scraping of paint, which she didn't even realize till she got home. She didn't even notice it was that light. She got home and then she came back up again. She didn't notice it, but when she came back, she was quite shook about it and all the rest of it. I found out when I went to their house a wee while later to give her money, pay off, so I scraped her paint. It's my fault. Even though the accident wasn't and I got paid for that. The scraping of paint was technically my fault because I didn't check my rearview mirror because I didn't think anyone was going to try to drive through the middle of the accident. But anyway, they showed me pictures. There was a drunk driver. They live on a 2-mile long straight in the back end of nowhere that is a 1.5 wide, and some drunk was driving up their road from one little village to the next little village at about maybe 80 or 90 mile an hour at least, because he hit a stone or a pothole, went up, hit the wall, cleaned the whole front of their house off, like the whole living room window, brick window, like that, just gone. Like,
Okay,
right there.
if you're showing up, the show starts in 20 minutes.
All right, did you put the link in the chat?
Yes.
For the StreamYard or for your stream?
He's done both.
Goodbye. I'm leaving.
I'm gonna put the YouTube. I'm gonna put the YouTube link in again right there for you.
Okay.
And then, of course, in our private chat here, presently, we have the StreamYard link.
Awesome. On it. All right. See everybody in 20 minutes.
Thanks, everybody. Everybody's just run away and gonna leave me on my own and all the rest. Can I don't leave?
You asked me to do it.
The stream, But thanks everybody for coming to the pigsty. I've been your host, MathPig. I want to thank Richard for coming and putting himself on the slab, on the altar, putting himself forth. I want to thank Godless Girl and Maya. I don't know why I did it in that order. But all and everybody that came and joined. I want to thank everybody for coming and watching. It really does, fill my time and give me some shit to do. But no, members, Patreons, everybody that contributes to the channel, these are all fantastic. And Regis, top member, top Patreon, thank you everything that you do to help out with the channel. And other than that, don't listen to a goddamn thing that any of us say, except for maybe Weasel on some physics things when he's not too high, because he's
excellent.
Oh no! Don't get all up yourself. I give you a little blow. Shut the fuck up. Right? Richards, 20 minutes. Everybody, get over there. Think for yourselves, people. The world is an amazing place. Go out there, experience things. Hug the people you fucking love. Tell the people that you don't care about absolutely nothing because they're not worth your time. Just enjoy yourself, have fun, and spread love about. I don't know. Rambling. Go see Ian Richards. Think for yourselves, people.